Hip Hop Radio Talk Show. Y'all know it's Friday. Y'all know it's time for world politics and local. So listen, y'all, we're gonna have a really good show tonight. Um, we've got a couple of things coming up while we wait for Brother Zaid to join in as well as Donna. So tonight, of course, we're going to talk first up with our brother Dr. Akil Kafani. We're going to talk about the Pan African gathering that's coming up. And then, of course, at 6:30, we're going to talk to Josie Alexander of Equal Justice USA. We're going to talk about the disturbing police abuse that's taking place in Baton Rouge. So we'll have that's also where Zaid is, by the way. So we'll get some on the ground information from both of them. And then, of course, we've got the vote coming up, and we're going to talk with Brother Conrad tonight, and I'm sure he's going to have some interesting things to talk about, particularly as it relates to the current political climate, everything that's going on. And then coming up at 7:45, we're going to talk to Kim Gaddy on the implications of the recent laws on environmental justice. And then, of course, we'll have our brother DJ Rhino, that's going to come up, and we'll have a conversation with Brother Rhino, talking about what's going on in hip hop currently. So we'll get all the current events. I've heard some negative stuff going on about DJ Envy, that brother was involved in some sort of scandal as it relates to some sort of Ponzi. So be interested to get the 411 on that and kind of see what that is. I know brother's been involved in real estate, but I've never heard anybody say anything negative as it relates to brother DJ Envy. So we'll just try to get the 411, and if need be, send brother a text and see if we could get some information on it, because we don't want to be no gossip machine, but we do want to try and put the information in the community as it relates to what's really going on. We know the brother to have come in and out of Newark on a couple of occasions and held some real estate classes. So we'll talk about that with DJ Rhino. But right now we got our brother on, brother Kafilo, Dr. Akil Kafani, and we'll talk to him and see what's going on. Peace, my brother.
Peace, brother, man. What's going on?
Everything good, brother. So I know I got an echo. So when I'm not talking, you can mute your mic, and then when I'm not talking, I mute my mic. Right?
Okay.
So that'll kill that echo. So I know that I see in my notes here that Brother Zaid put down that we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming Pan African gathering. So why don't I just let you pick it up and let's just talk about it and let us know when it's upcoming.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a couple of Pan African gatherings coming up. Most recently at the college, we have the Pan African Martial Arts gathering, and that's going to be a really a great event and a powerful time for us to really focus on. This is our third one. We've done a couple many years ago, actually, and we're just kind of coming back to this particular thing. But part of this whole Pan African gathering for me is that we have to think about that, like these Pan African geniuses behind me, Nkrumah and Garvey. We have to think that Pan Africanism is not just something that's related to the political movement. We've got to actually think about Pan Africanism from a holistic perspective. So we do stuff here on Pan Africanism related to martial arts. That's what this is coming up. We had a Pan African Metanetra conference. We had a Pan African drum fest. And so we strive to be holistic academically, politically, culturally on Pan Africanism. And I think that that's what we need more of our folks to move towards in terms of really pushing the Pan African agenda. And the other thing that I'm working on, I was invited to participate in the upcoming Pan African Conference in Togo. So there's the ninth Pan African Congress is being organized for Togo in 2024, and then there's another one. There's like three Pan African major international Pan African functions going on. The other one is going to be in Uganda, and that's going to be in July in Uganda. And Sister Kim Poole is tight organizing that, and she's working with Dr. Uh, Akanra. And so and she's an elder who is from the states but lived in East Africa for many years. And so then all of these ideas, and then there's this whole pushback now on the implications of the West uh, purging itself into uh, West Africa, and so then all the countries fighting the sanctions against um, all of the West African countries. So in Mali, in Niger, and the list goes on. And so there's this push about by Africans and non-Africans actually to fight against this whole movement against the West incursion, because Africans are trying to assert their sovereignty and push for independence in the face of ongoing colonial bombardment, right? So that all the French West African countries have been still have to give up their money to France, and so there's this huge pushback now that these African countries are fighting for independence. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, and they're all pushing back against the French, the French's imposition, continued imposition since the end of colonization, formal colonization. And so that's what these Pan African movements are all about: is how do we have our own voice in this process, and how do we continue to push the envelope while we're doing that. So I think that the more we on this show, how we can think about getting the folks locally engaged. We was engaged in anti-apartheid movements, but you really don't see people too much engaged in global African movements anymore. And I want to just call upon people to say, hey, let's get up off of our behinds and get involved, because there's a lot of stuff going on and the folks need our support. And where are we? Right? We don't understand the relationship between the local and the international sometimes. And if we don't do it, trust me, local can only, as Africans, as local can only be as strong as our national and international tentacles. And I think our international tentacles are fairly weak as groups right now. And I'm fighting to do whatever I can to strengthen those so that we collectively can make some change.
I think you're absolutely right, Brother Kapani. I mean, that's one of the things that we talk about with the mayor. You know, we had this conversation about, when we were coming up in Newark, maybe 30 years ago, there was always something going on culturally. Like you had African Echoes that was around. You had all these different poetry spots we could go to. There was always some cultural, some black nationalism, some African conversations. Now, you barely can find anywhere to go and have a conscious conversation. That's sort of like what my son was saying. On the panel when he was saying that when he put out stuff that's conscious, he barely get any hits at all, on his IG that has over 100,000 people. But if he put out something that's negative, right, and that's the same thing in our community, right? You put, you advertise you're doing a party. Well, you're gonna get a whole bunch of folks that's gonna come out, but you're doing something around Pan Africanism or something around, the whole continent. I mean, you having a difficult time trying to get our people to come out and support it. And you're right, we've got to get back to that, right? Because we got other people who are trying to sell our culture to us, and I mean, we're having a difficult time as it is, fighting the, in schools to keep books in schools that is teaching the culture of our people. So you're absolutely right. You know, but we've got to find a way to be able to get folks, back in tune with our culture. And the problem is that we're just not doing enough things, right? And in terms of getting people involved. But I think what you're doing is definitely something to look into in terms of being able to build with that. But can you talk a little bit about what that martial arts thing is? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the martial arts program on November the 4th is on a Saturday, and it's an all-day program. And that conference is going to involve brother. Well, it's a tribute really to some of the elders who've passed. And then so brother Khalil Masi, his son, is an organizer. Is the key person helping to organize, pull this together. We're gonna have Infundisi Hassan, and we're gonna have folks from different traditions in martial arts who are coming to the table to talk about how we as Africans understand the martial science, right? So you got somebody from 52 Block, you got the Kupagani and Gumi, all these different formats of African understandings of martial science are going to be here doing demonstrations and lectures about these things. And that's going to be that Saturday. It's going to go on from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Here at Essex County College in Smith Hall. And I just, if people want more information, they can call us at the office, which is 973-877 3140. And that's going to be, or you can send an email at Africana, AFRICANA at essex.edu. And that is a continuation of this discussion about sometimes we as Africans are seen outside of martial arts. But if you go to the continent and you look in the walls, you see a long history of martial arts happening there. You see a long history of wrestling that's on the continent. You see a weapons usage, and so then we have to say that these things have been contributed to the world by African people. We go look in Asia. Actually, the first ninjas they were all these are all Africans that were in different places around the world, Japan, China, and so we don't get the attributions that we deserve. And when you look at the Meta Netra, you'll see they're doing wrestling and martial and yoga positions. And this is what Africans have been doing, and at the base of all that is the drum. The drum is a part of it, right? So the dance is part of it looks like a dance, but it's actually martial arts. And that's how they end up teaching the children, have them start dancing. And then before they know it, some of those moves that they're doing turn into martial arts. And they're like, oh, I didn't know I knew how to do this. And it becomes, kind of like that muscle memory. And they now can move and do something that they didn't know they knew how to do, but they all just thought they was dancing. So I always think that's beautiful. That's part of our culture. We embed stuff in the very fiber of everything we do. A spoon is just not a spoon that has art on it. The spoon is also used for serving. Well, the dance is not just the dance. The dance is for protection. Capoeira is the same type of thing. We think of it as something from Brazil, but I was in Angola, and capoeira started in Angola. That's why you have a branch of it called Capoeira Angola. And so we have to look at all these ties and bring us back to the source.
And you said this is going to be on what when is it?
November the 4th.
November 4th.
Yeah. I got two
And
other events coming up here at the college I want to mention as well.
what's that phone number again?
973 877 3140. And I can share the flyer with you all as well.
All right, 973-877-3140. And
Right,
that's
right.
going to be on November 4th. Is that
Yes.
what day is that?
That's a Saturday.
A Saturday. And what time is that going to start?
It'll start at 9 and it'll go all the way until 5 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, but you absolutely right. I mean, isn't that something? If peace, brother Zaid, welcome to the show, my brother.
Peace, Baba.
Hey, brother, how we doing?
Good.
Apologize for getting on late. Literally on the road in Louisiana, and it's got hit with some traffic.
Yeah. So we're talking about the event that the other guy coming up, and we're getting some feedback. So what we're doing is we're going to mute when we're talking, so we don't get that feedback. But Brother Kafani was just talking about this martial arts event that's coming up, and he's right about kids doing it and doing it and dancing, and all of a sudden you sort of learn that you know something about martial arts just based on your dancing. Where I saw that at, Brother Kafani. Remember when we were younger, we used to go see Bruce Lee fight. I remember when he would, the way he would bounce around and box and so forth, and it looked like dancing when he was doing it, right? And that's what we
Exactly.
sort of started doing, and so forth, and realized, wow, we really do know how to do some boxing. And when you think about Ali, right, that's what
Ali
Ali,
for sure.
right? I mean, he was doing all of that, and who knew that was really cultural, as far as we were concerned. So that's pretty interesting, my brother.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. And I'm glad that that we're having it here in Newark again, because I hear there's some other I won't say competing, but there's some other martial arts events, African martial arts events coming up. One even in China. So but we've got to make sure that we're representing and doing our thing. I want to mention real quick also, next week we have the State of Black Writers Forum, and that's going to be on Tuesday here at the college, and that'll start at 10 and it'll go to 2:30. We'll have three sessions. The first one is going to have myself and three other authors, Sister Nasa Ma'at and Margaret Stevens and another person, and then John White, and then we're going to have a journalism pattern panel with some powerful brothers and sisters, and then we're going to have some youth come in for the third panel. So it's
So
going to
that's
be
next Saturday.
and Baba. This is on Tuesday of next week, and Baba Zaid is helping to make that happen. So I want to thank you, Baba Zaid, while I'm here on the phone with you.
Yes, sir. John Gavin White, by the way, was one of my soldiers for a few minutes, and when he was much younger, he was with us for a few minutes in the new Black Panther Party. He's an excellent poet, a very highly regarded poet, starting to get his due in ways that good writers should get it. And he's taking up a residence program at the Paul Robeson Gallery, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he is, and then he was doing a thing at the Dodd Poetry Fest as well.
yeah, he's really getting some good, really getting some serious looks, and not and that's hard. And some of our best writers don't get good looks sometimes. We're lucky if we get discovered, after we've gone on. But he's a young man, distinguished, married into an artistic family. He's an anque by marriage, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. But he's got a whole nexus of creativity that he is really plugging into and then lifting up in a way that I'm very proud of. Very proud of that young brother.
Yeah, no, I think that it's going to be great. Last thing we got coming up in November also is just to kind of put a far heads up on it, is the Health and Wellness Expo, and we do an African centered Health and Wellness Expo, and that's going to be on November the 15th. All day long, we're going to have it for high school kids. We got high school kids coming from all across Essex County, and we're expecting between 1,000 1,500 young folks, and then in the evening it's going to be for adults at the Essex County College gym. So the daytime program is from 10 to 2, and the evening time program is 4:30 to 7:30, or it can go to 8. And we're going to have health screenings. We're going to look at mental health, but we have folks coming to talk about alternative ways of looking at health, and not just about allopathic methods. So we got Dr. Holder and his whole crew coming through. They're part of the organizing body. Sister Keisha and the her program. They're co-sponsors. The what is it? The Office of Violence Prevention. So we're excited that they're all on board, and then the nursing students are going to be on board. So it's a more truth action is going to be on board. So it's a big event, and we invite you all to come. It's free and open to the public.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Now, is there a website or something where we can go and see all these flyers and all these dates and so forth?
Our website's a little slow getting updates, but I'll send all of them to you directly,
Okay.
and then you guys will
You can
have them and
post
can
them.
share them with your audience.
Yep.
Would be good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you send
yeah.
them. We'll post
Wh-
them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so they'll be at www.essex.edu sooner than later, but that's we're that sometimes that getting them up on the website is a little slow. So if people want information, they just the best thing to do is contact us at africana@essex.edu or the phone number 973-877-3140.
Yep, got it. But now I want to talk a little bit about Tuesday again. To go back
Yes.
with Zaid is going to be. Is he moderating that?
Uh, but Bubba Zay can tell you he's helping us to get some young folks on, and I would love
No,
it if
I'm
he's
not. I'm not moderating. I just offered I just offered up some supportive advice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now you got to
But yeah, so we're that event. The first part is going to be really a powerful piece because we're having with myself and John and Anasa Ma'at and Margaret Stevens, all published authors, seasoned scholars. Anas Mad has maybe 3-4 books out. She's been doing some great stuff. Margaret actually is interesting because the way that this is, we've had before. We had Amiri Barak, we had Sonia Sanchez, we've had all kinds of folks who've been on this particular thing we've been doing for. This is the 9th annual. So we've been doing this for a very no, this is the 11th annual. So we've been doing this for a very long time. But the one thing I want to say is that Margaret Stevens, she's working on a documentary. So one of the things that here once again, this Pan African way of thinking is that all of the ways of writing, doing a documentary is writing. We don't think about that, right? And so how do we express our African voice? I think we should learn to express it through poetry, through films and documentaries, through monographs, through scholarly research, through novels, through political essays, newspapers, magazines, all of these things. But we need to be writing because sometimes what happens, especially even with our elders, we talked about this a little bit the other day, but I'm not going to go into any names. But the point is that our elders oftentimes work real hard in the community and they don't get a chance to write stuff. And so the message for us and me as an academic, my message is, look, we got to work with all those brothers and sisters who are elders and or yourselves, right? The two of you, and got to get stuff out. And so that no one's going to tell our story but us. And even when they tell a story, we know it's wrong. And then we end up complaining as opposed to being proactive. So let's take some time, sit down and write our stuff, because otherwise some garbage is going to be out there saying some stuff that's antithetical to where we want to go, is going to be negative for our babies. And it's our responsibility to put the foundation for them so that the things that need to be said for them, the legacies that need to be left for them, are strong, are hard and positive. And we have to be what I call, this class I'm going through, we have to be warriors, healers, and builders. And we have to think about our writing in that way. Right. So we know as warriors, we see the martial arts things. Sometimes people and I had this conversation with them. Sometimes people think we just be warriors and be hard. Yeah. And warriors in a real war tear stuff down, kill people, do all kinds of things. So if you really want to be about the building up of your society, you also have to at the same time be thinking about and preparing to build. You got to be thinking about and preparing to heal the people. And we oftentimes don't think about those stuff. And we get people in places in power, whether it's political or in the church or wherever, and they're just warriors. And then when they get there, they can't do anything to heal the people. They can't do anything to build the community up because they're still thinking about warriors, and or they start thinking about self. if we change our mentality at this point, we have a better opportunity to do some stuff that I think will uplift us.
Hey, you remember that war song I taught y'all a little while ago when I was with you last a few months ago. It's right on that premise.
Right.
Ancestors were clear about that a long time ago. In spite of our predicament, let's turn the conversation though, because I mean, there's so lot. I wanted you to talk a little. You mentioned the class that you taken, right? That y'all, I don't know if y'all. I don't want that to slip by this audience, right? Professor Akil Funny is talking about a class he's taken, right? And he's still enriching himself, right? And it sounds like a loaded class. You want to share a little bit about that before we start this conversation?
Yeah. It's an ongoing class. It's really I call it a class, but it's like really an ongoing part and parcel of Baba Wakesa from down south. Him and his wife, they have something called Ngolo Village and Aya. And so what they do is that they come together and they teach about different modalities about thinking about who we are as African people. And you know, I got a PhD, so I got a whole bunch of degrees, spent a lot of time in college. But the thing is that means nothing because I only know this much. And so we got to continue to further our knowledge to transform the spaces that we're in for the power of the people. See, we can't be stuck on. That's why I had this conference here on African Studies here at the college, because many of us who get in these positions, we think about us as individuals as opposed to that we got here because people died for us to be here in these places. And these are the people's institutions, and we're simply the caretakers. So this program is a reminder that that's what this is, right? That this class helps us to think about it. As a matter of fact, one thing it tells, we talk about in there that they've talked about is that not only be warrior, healer, and builder, they talk about the whole point that we need to not use negating language towards each other, right? We oftentimes will compliment someone or we say something and then we have a but after it. And so that undermines all the gifts that you gave them in your words. And our words have power. And if we don't treat the words as having power, if we treat them as just words that's represented by the English or French or Spanish language without understanding the ashe, right? Ashe means power in Yoruba, that the ashe on your tongue, the ashe on your words, that means something and it has an impact. And so that I strive not to use the word but, right? When I'm speaking about something, unless it's absolutely necessary. I just want to make sure that when I'm talking to people that I'm giving additive words instead of negating words. So those are some of the ways in which we talk about things. Another really great, powerful piece was that Baba Wakesa was talking about one day when we were thinking about Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? People oftentimes think of it as a massacre. And he said, no, we have a wrong perception. It was a fight. Now, we might have lost the battle, but it was a fight. You know, when the brothers first went there to protect the brother who got
Brotherhood
shot.
For the record.
Say that again.
The African Blood Brotherhood, for the record, gave some serious resistance.
Exactly.
So they should be told right on.
Right. So they went there. They went to the police department, and they came with guns in tow. And then the police told them that they had it handled. They could leave, so they left. And then they came back with more brothers and more guns, still saying that no, we gonna defend our brother, and we don't trust the words you saying. And so those are the stories that we have to tell about uplifting us. Because if we just tell the story of victimhood, we then only feature and focus on our trauma. And that we have something he calls trauma porn. In other words, we focus too much on trauma because we don't tell the full story. And so telling the full story is about it, is really the pathway to our upliftment. And
I just left also 2 weeks ago. And there's a young sister out there who I'm extremely proud of, who was definitely carrying the weight of the ancestors of what was Black Wall Street. And it's you turning her tragedy into resilience and triumph. And we're really trying to figure out how to really ride with her to help her. I want y'all to remember the name Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Her twin brother, Terrence Crutcher, was Tulsa's Hands Up, Don't Shoot several years ago. horrible killing of her twin brother. She was based in Alabama as a medical practitioner, came back to Tulsa, built up what's called the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, and has emerged as a serious voice for reparations in the big tent way, reparations in Black Wall Street, restorative justice, police brutality, and the death penalty. She's become a force out there and has just made a move to purchase a vacant mall in the Black Wall Street district to try and revitalize that area. So, by 501c3 activists, it ain't just about the stuff we're doing in an immediate mutual aid way, right? We can also turn this into some of the questions that we need to face in terms of our living conditions, right? And there we're talking about the whole struggle of recovering some economic self-determination. She's really making a bold move, trying to do that. So she, not stuck to your point, Baba Akil, not stuck on the anguish of being vanquished, but how to recover and reassert ourselves and dare to reclaim the greatness that was once upon a time ours. Good share, son. Good share. Good share. Good share. Now let's pivot. You just came back from Nigeria, and we've got some Pan-African things that are on the horizon in terms of some important conferences coming up, right? And you're one of our Renaissance men, son. I really, how many, audience talk to me. How many, of our, Africana scholars are talking about, martial arts to Pan Africans. You understand there's the range of this young man that we have here that we're blessed to have at Africana Studies at Essex County College, right? But that's who we have, right? And deeply rooted in our tradition, serious spiritual practitioner of our traditional spirituality tradition, right? And you've hosted, you've had an annual conference on that, right? So tell us about your recent trip to Nigeria and these important forums that we've got coming up on the Pan African front.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. So I was in Nigeria for the Olojo Festival. So I was invited by His Imperial Majesty.
Now wait. Now, everybody don't know what a Lojo is, right? That sounds like Mojo with some ketchup on it. For those that don't know.
No, I'm gonna give a little tidbit on it back on the background. So the Olojo Festival is a festival, an annual festival. So the Oni is the king of all the Yoruba people worldwide, right? And so there's Yoruba people, obviously in Nigeria, but also in Ghana and all the neighboring countries. You'll find some in Niger, some in Burkina Faso, and in Cote d'Ivoire. And so then you see in other places. And then, of course, in the diaspora, you have lots of Yoruba folks. And so then that spiritual system, Isheshe, or in the diaspora, is called Santeria, Lukami, Karamble, and all these different other iterations. But it all comes from the source, and Ile Ife is the source. They say it is the beginning of humanity is in Ile Ife, Nigeria, and so that beginning is where Ududuwa came down on the chain. And so at that place, Ududuwa were the first, what they call the Erere crown. And that crown, this Olojo festival is a celebration of that crown. And it was worn by Ududuwa at the beginnings of time, and it's worn by the king, and it's about 50 kilograms. And so it's very heavy, but it's also spiritually heavy. And so I'm the Pan-African diaspora ambassador to the Oni. So I came as his guest, and I poured libations in front of 10 or 20, maybe even 30,000 people. Walking was it was beautiful, but it was a lot of people and tight, very packed. And so the whole ceremony was beautiful. This is my second time there for it, and very lots of pageantry. People talk about the kings and queens. If I wish we had pictures here, I could show of all of the kings and queens who were there, the obas, the chiefs who were there, the king's palace, which is very palatial and huge. and I stayed at the palace, and I was there with my son, and that was a beautiful experience for us. But beyond just the two of us and what I got to do, I think those kinds of things. This is like a pilgrimage, and I think that's how we have to treat it. And I want to take some folks there in a future trip, and I think we need to have a pilgrimage of our own. And the Oni, back until the early 1900s, was only seen once a year, and that was at this festival wearing this crown. And in recent years, and since then, and since the beginning of I think it was 2000, I mean 1910 or 1912 was after that point the Oni started to be seen more frequently. And this particular Oni, he is a young brother, younger than I am, but he's been doing a great job. You know, he's getting out, making improvements, traveling around the world. He was here in New Jersey. We hosted him here in New Jersey twice, East Orange and here in Essex County. And you know, I think that we need to look at our own cultural foundations, right? So I'm a traditional priest in the Yoruba system at Gungun, and I think that the more we understand our own spiritual foundations, the better we are empowered to transform the world that we're in. The better we're empowered to uplift ourselves because we're not fooled by other things that people present to us, and but we don't study ourselves well enough. We don't study our own history, and we don't understand and study the histories of the world. I say, as a Pan-Africanist, it's not enough just to understand and to study African reality. Some people think that that's good. You know, you can be much more versed than I am. I know a lot of people are more versed than I am on Pan-African history, on African history. However, as a sociologist, I use history to help develop solutions to social problems and as a tool for uplifting African people. And so then all of these things that I have at my disposal are tools to transform our community, globally speaking, into a better and stronger place. And I think that's how we have to look at all the things that we do. If we are holistic in that way, from our diet to our mental state of being, to our physical health, all of these things we have to look at. What are we putting in our mouths? What tools are we using? Are we using plastic all the time that's leaching toxins into us? What do we have around our house? Do we know how to grow any food? Right? Putting your feet on the earth, getting grounded. I've started a business with three other brothers, and we're doing a whole thing on getting grounded, right? And that you gotta, once you get grounded, you transform your reality. I mean, both physically and spiritually grounded. Putting your feet in the soil, and we've developed we're patenting some devices that people can use to go and get grounded while they're, you know, wherever they are. And so then the company is called the Grounding Factory, and we say get grounded, stay grounded, right? And so once you understand the power of us being holistic in what we do, that we can actually realize the dreams and blessings of, where am I pointing at? Here we go. Of Garvey and Nkrumah, Ezekiel,
You know, I was gonna get to that.
Malcolm, all these other folks. We can realize those dreams if we are spiritually and physically grounded and recognize our relationship to the world around us and to the people around us, and put African community first, even before ourselves. That we are representatives of the community, so we're not the community in and of ourselves. Some of us put ourselves out in front, even our families. I tell my wife and women when they get married, I say, we got to make sure that everything we do is community centric, and then that'll circle back to the family. But if we're just family centric, we can be like a whole bunch of folks in our community who are wealthy and their families are good, but they don't have anything to do with the communities. And then they get robbed, or they get this, or because they're not community centric. You get all your money, be community centric, and do some stuff. And that's where we need to be. You know, like even the sisters who were got all that money for Black Lives Matter. Think how many buildings in our communities, if they had taken that money to do something with it, I don't remember what it was. It was $1 billion or something. How many centers could they have spent $250 million on, or $1 million? If you got $1 billion, you spend $1 million getting a center up to speed in 10 different places around the $100 million rather, and spend 10 different places around the United States. You made a contribution then. But if you buy a couple of houses yourself, then you're not doing anything. So we need to be holding people accountable. And if they're going to get community money, then they need to do something for and to and with the community.
That's we'll, that's a whole nother conversation, and there's somebody I'd love to have come on and break down just what happened with that particular pool of money that was, turned unfortunately into some exploitation over the profound summer that was we call the George Floyd summer of 2020, when we had more protests, not just in this country, but for this country's sake, more protests in this country than in any other point in history around the scourge of police brutality, and a lot of that was led by young black women. By the way, I have to say that. But let's pivot now, because I want to build on on what you're talking about, because there's some gatherings taking place. Last year there was a profound gathering in Panama. It was there was a Pan African Chamber of Commerce, for lack of a better way, just in the short order. Commerce are coming together in Pan Africa, where folks from all over the world, all over the African world, converged in Panama. And Panama is a very profound African history, right? And it's not an accident that it would emerge there. There is a growing Pan African consciousness in throughout the hemisphere. That George Floyd summer saw protests from Boston to Buenos Aires, and I know some of the organizers who have been involved in that in different places. In fact, one is now the vice president of Colombia, right? There's several things that have been coming up. You have been pushing one that's coming up soon, and then there's the ninth conference is coming up in Togo next year. Let's take a few minutes and dive into that, because that's important stuff.
Yeah, the one in Togo is sponsored by the Togolese government, and I'm part of this organizing body on it, and we're working. We're a little behind on that, so I'm actually thinking that might get pushed back to 25 now, because we there's some key things that need to be done that haven't been done, and so we're gonna come back to a meeting on that, and we need to have some satellite meetings in different places in Africa. And brother who's a professor at Lincoln University, Dr. Nyaka, real great, strong Pan Africanist, and he is part of this movement that we have, and he's so we're gonna figure out what we're gonna have to do to bring that into fruition. But it's beautiful that we have sponsorship from the Togolese government, and then there's the push by our sister, Dr. Maxine Akara, and she's has a whole thing called Africa Reclaimed, African Diaspora Connection, and that's going to be a conference that's going to be in Uganda. That's going to Kampala, Uganda, at the university there, and that's going to be July 2024. So Sister Kim Poole and some other folks are working on that, and they asked me, they're asking me to come and participate in it. So we're looking at that to be able to maybe bring some students too and participate in a powerful way there. And then there is another group out of South Africa that's a Pan Africanist group, and they're striving to bring all the African chiefs all around the continent together. So they're looking to bridge that gap. And I'm working with that brother too. I met him in Angola. I'm sorry, I met him in while we were in Nigeria. So the Nigerian festival was powerful in that regard. So this one is called the Sovereign Congress of African Leaders. So all across the continent now and across the world, Africans are asserting themselves, and this is a beautiful thing. And we got to be excited about it, and we've got to put the energy in to help make it happen. Right? We've got to. I'm even thinking. I'm just now being asked to consider to be on the Newark Anti-Violence Commission board. I think that even those kinds of organizations that are really focused on very, very hyper local stuff, that I think we need to have a pivot there even, and to bring in these international components, because I think that if we really did that, then the folks in the community could see that they're not isolated, could see that there's something bigger than where they are. And getting those, if we could get those young soldier brothers and sisters in the neighborhoods to Africa to see some of this stuff, I think we would do some powerful stuff then. And I think that's a direction we need to go. And so if we can find some grant money or some other ways to do that, get some wealthy Africans, they could have spent some of that money taking brothers and sisters to the continent, to some of these festivals, and getting them on the dirt, right? Once again, getting grounded, getting on the dirt, in Africa, and let that dirt fill your soul, man. You know, when I get home, I just get excited when I get to the continent, because I get that soul, that soil on me, and it touches me, and I touch the brothers and sisters, and they show me the love, and I show them the love, and that's a beautiful thing. Now we got some difficulties around the way, but I don't focus on those. I focus on the upliftment. And when we do that, we change the world, brother, man. We change the world.
Listen, you're closer than you think, and we need to help them see that. One of the best trainers of community-based violence intervention work, and it is it requires a professional training in violence intervention, and it's dangerous stuff. It's done by an old Panther by the name of Akil Bashir, right? The PCITI training that is become organic to community-based violence intervention strategies in a number of cities. This brother has developed that and has received international recognition for having done so. I just did a domestic violence forum with a young brother who was one of our babies in the December 12th movement, and who's now become a go-to person for the question of men in domestic violence. His name is Quentin Walcott. He's been recognized in international forums, through the United Nations. So there is the seeds are there, right? In those spaces that we're talking about, and it would be a huge lift, for the work that we've got going on in Newark, and definitely for my sons and daughters in the mighty Newark Anti-Violence Coalition to do that. So we're closer. We're closer to that than perhaps meet the eye. And we just need to connect those dots for our sons and daughters so they can see it and jump in this. Because once they get in it, that using Dr. Jeffrey's language, that African Holy Ghost gonna get hold of them, like how you talk, just like how you talk.
Yes. I think that's true. And once we get that African Holy Ghost to touch them, brother, there ain't no going back from going black.
That's right. All right, so we winding down. We kind of went over a little bit, but it's I got to apologize again for getting on late. If y'all would appreciate why I was late. You probably put a smile on your face. Ed, you want to ask this young man our ritual question, but as we take
I do, but I was wondering if he could elaborate a little bit for me. He was talking about dealing with social problems, right? That class that he's taking, right? And that's one of the things I think where we are. Look, for instance, Brother Kapani, if you think about everything that's going on in the world, right? Kim and I, my wife, right? So we wake up every morning, and I'm a journalism kind of guy. So I pop on all these different channels. I'm looking at what's going on. But the first thing we wake up do, we pray, and we try to get spiritually grounded. But I think about other people who don't do that, right? They don't get up and they don't thank God when they wake up in the morning, and kind of touch bases with the spirit before you pop on everything. And I was just thinking about this level of heaviness, right? Because as African people, we don't really have a way of being able to do that we can connect to, right? That we remember, right? And so I was just thinking about, what is it that you're learning that we might be able to share? Because even when we have some other brothers on, and we talk about having classes or conversations with each other and being able to trust each other, and and all of those things, to have those conversations. And then the mayor comes on and he'll talk about this heaviness that's on us, and that kind of prevents us from being able to move forward and see ourselves successful. What is it that you're learning that would help us deal with the social problems and social issues in our community from an African perspective, or an African centered way, that would help us be able to move forward?
You're muted.
I think Brother TJ Whitaker said part of it in his talk the other day. And he said that when we get together, the failing I think we have is that we spend so much time going first to business, and we don't know who each other are. I don't know your wife, you don't know mine. You don't even know I got kids. I don't know that you got children. But we meeting though, but we don't know each other. So how do we have trust if I don't even know who you are? How do I have trust? I don't even know where you're from, right? And so that's part of it. But the other part here, and I moved my computer setup so that you could see this. And when we're talking about that heaviness, there's a concept called ma'at, and this is the scales of ma'at right here, right? And the scales of ma'at, can you see that? And the scales of ma'at talk about when one dies, that if your heart is heavy, so on one side of the scale is a heart, and the other side is a feather. And so ma'at stands for truth, justice, righteousness, balance, harmony, and reciprocity. And so the question is, if you live with your heart is heavy, then what does that mean for you? And living with a heavy heart, I mean, we've all felt that, right? You know, you all know what it means to have had a heavy heart at some point. And so when you think about that weight on your heart, literally, that can cause death right there. That can cause tension and stress and conflict. And so then you got men who go in and beat their wives and beat their kids. You got folks who is drinking or having sex excessively or having drugs excessively, and all these different vices that they use to cope. But what it says in ancient Ma'at, it says that, or ancient Kemet really, it says that it's okay to be stressful, to be stressed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have pain, but you can't live in those things, because when you live in them, then you have that heavy heart. And with that heavy heart, then what happens is that reason you get to that scale is that at the time of your demise, if you are living with a heavy heart, then it suggests that you're not ready to go to the afterlife. You're not ready to join the table of the ancestors, and that you have to go back and circle through because of some lessons maybe that you didn't learn, right? And so when that heaviness on your heart means that it's time to step back. It's time to think back about stuff and to get to a place where you can see yourself in other kinds of ways. And in that class, we're talking about that you have to speak about yourself in positive ways. We've got to think differently about the world in which we live, and we've got to have different ways in which we come to understand those things. And so that when we get stuck on just doing things from a Eurocentric model, then we can't change or switch our position so that we're uplifting folks in African-centered ways. So the understanding the African spirituality is one of those things. Understanding the nature of white supremacy and or supposed white supremacy, however you want to structure that, are things that we have to think about, and how those things negatively impact us, and how the real virus that we have is, it has nothing to do with COVID. Our real virus that we have is our linkage and our liking to white supremacy, right? To all things European. We still have that device, and that's what we need an inoculation for. We need an inoculation from our attachment to white supremacy, to our attachment to the ideas of Europeans moving through spaces that are better than what we bring to the table. Not just different, but better. And not recognizing the antiquity of our own stuff. Like I'm talking with some brothers in governance from different African countries. And one of the things I'm saying is that Dr. Fukuyao wrote a book called Mbongi, which is an African-centered way of thinking about who and what we are. And Mbongi gives us another approach to navigating this system of how we govern ourselves. And democracy is not the key, because democracy is not democratic. Democracy, the word democracy sounds good, but it's actually a trick in how they play itself out. And I ran for office, so I understand that moving through those spaces. But the point is that we've got to understand that, and the majority of us, especially the people who are in office, don't understand that and would never do anything to undermine the space in which that system and how it operates, because they don't understand how it operates and from whom it operates. In the book I wrote called The Hidden Debate, I talk about how we've got to have our own systems of understanding things, and we have them. We just don't understand our own worldview. We don't look at the African-centered worldview. We look at Descartes, right? Descartes says, "I think, therefore I am." But the Ubuntu says we are, therefore I am, therefore we are. That it's a symbiotic relationship between the individual and the collective. However, the linear way of thinking, we attach ourselves to that because that's the sickness of white supremacy that is within us. And until we get rid of that disease of thinking that that's the way to go, that we're going to be stuck in the place that we are. And so we've got to be, like Malcolm said, that they move the chains from your arms and your wrists and put them behind your head, behind your eyes, and you can't see them, but you're still in chains. And so when I go to the continent, I talk to brothers and sisters. I wear more African clothes in some places than the brothers and sisters on the continent because they've been colonized to think that wearing a $1,000 suit, I don't wear a $1,000 suit.
$900 sneakers.
Exactly. But that's what they want to wear because that's what they think is progress. They think coming here and getting a job here is progress. No, if they want to come here and get an education, take that mess back home. That's where we need your resources. And we're not focused on those things. We need to focus on those things as a powerful way to transform our thinking and doing. And that's why. So those are some of the lessons that we're getting from that class. And maybe one day we can talk about specific. In fact, no, it would be better if we had Baba Wakesa to come on and talk about it. So I would love to make that happen because he's a beautiful brother and a powerful thinker, an analyst. And they have an African-centered, not even an African-centered. They have an African school, a high school. And some of our young folks here in New Jersey have gone through it, and now they're in college. So they have an African online school that they've been doing for many years, and folks graduate from. So we need to be able, and I support them regularly because I think that we've got to find things like that and uplift them. And they have so much knowledge to offer that we could benefit from in great ways. So I'd love to see him on here.
The great Amiri Baraka, his birthday was just on this past Saturday. Always told us we have to smash the ghost of double consciousness. Right onto that. Great stuff. Hey, go ahead, question.
Yeah. Every time I get ready to ask him a question, he's saying so much, man. And it's just like, okay, hold on a second, Zaid. And Brother Kafani, I'm sorry for holding you over, man.
It's all good, brother. I'm here for you and for my brothers and the people. I'm here all day long, however long you need me.
So, I mean, and I didn't want to stop you. So, but you said that democracy is a trick, right? And you ran for office. Explain that.
Yeah. So, when you think about democracy, when we came, if you think about the beginnings of the political structure in the United States, right? That democracy, it was democracy for whom? That there was no democracy in 1776, right? If you think about the after the Revolutionary War, even here in New Jersey, what do we call the people who were at the county seats? They were called freeholders. In other places, they were called burghers. What did that mean? That meant that they had to be a freeholder of land to be in office. I didn't say you was paying rent on the land. I didn't say you were paying mortgage on the land. Wasn't no mortgages back then. But you had to have the land clear and free. And so that meant that you were a white male who had money and property. That's who could run and be in office. So democracy for whom? They called it that, but that was really an apartheid is what they had. Africans couldn't vote, couldn't participate in the political process. European women and any other women couldn't. Indigenous folks couldn't. So all of these things that they talk about democracy has been a farce. And so we have to, those of us participating, the Congressional Black Caucus and others, they should be, even though they're there, they should understand the farce and not get swept up into it and use the system to navigate it for the benefit of African people, right? And everybody else going to benefit in the process. Everybody always benefits from what African people do. Europeans even benefited when Africans ended slavery. Slavery didn't end because they stopped torturing the minds of European children when they stopped lynching African people. Think about this: a kid watching a young child, and somebody's telling them that we're celebrating somebody getting lynched. But the reality is that when you look at it and you think about it, maybe that wasn't so celebratory for the kid. Some kids seeing somebody being lynched and burned and raped and all these things. That's trauma to those kids. And so their kids live traumatized, and we don't talk about the trauma that European kids had in the process. There's a book written by an Afrikaans man called, his name was Vincent Crapanzano. He wrote a book called Waiting. And in that book it speaks to South Africa, but it speaks the tone of all the places where African people are. And it was that in South Africa, Europeans were always waiting for something to happen, that Africans were going to erupt and this, that, and the other. And it never happened until they thought it wasn't going to happen. And then all of a sudden, bam, there it was. And so the waiting part is why you see a George Floyd incident, because they're anticipating some violence from African people. And we've shown so much remorse. We've shown so much giving pause to Europeans, giving pause to the attacks and the onslaughts of white supremacy. We oftentimes don't talk about the things the way we should. We talk with such politeness about the atrocities of white supremacy, even slavery, right? We talk about it, we call it the Atlantic slave trade. No, the Atlantic Ocean didn't enslave nobody. It was the European slave trade. Let's call it what it was. It was the Arab slave trade. Those are the things and the people who enslaved Africans, not the Atlantic Ocean, not the East. So we have to talk about it for what it was. They raped and maimed and dismembered and disemboweled people. It was atrocious and torturous and heinous. And we because of our ideas to placate European sentiment, we are fearful and we want to be polite to the European feelings at the cost of our own being. And I've learned when I was a grad student, I learned that, and I've been studying race relations for over 30 years now, but I learned as a grad student at my graduation, when I got my doctorate, that the only way to really be whole in the process is that every time somebody who is a white supremacist or whatever anti-you is doing something, you got to put it right back on them. At my graduation, some European woman stood up. We were they were standing up doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't take my hat off, and she said, she turned around and said with angst in her voice and proudness, and she said, "You need to take your hat off." I looked at her and I said, I got my PhD just like you. And I said, you need to turn around and mind your business. And then she had the audacity to turn around and say something to me again. And so then I had to give her a few choice words and send her back, crawling back where she came from. And what that said to me and to this process is that if we allow people to assault us in their ideas of European superiority, then we live with that. Even to this day, I would be saying, man, my graduation I'm glad I graduated. But oh man, do you remember I was so terrible? I was there and this European woman told me X, Y, and Z, and I took my hat off. If I had taken my hat off, I'd still be complaining about it today. Right? But now I'm empowered because today I'm sure she's the one saying, I was at graduation and some black guy, he refused to take his hat off. And so let her live with that. You see what I'm saying? I don't have to live with that. Because that's not my zone, and I have a doctorate just like she did. So why would I live with what that she's trying to put on me? That was before the idea of the Karen. You know, that idea, that process was already happening. We've got to lift ourselves up and be whole in what we do. And the last thing I'm gonna say on this is that just that when you think about our contributions to the world. And the idea of how we change things. What I wrote about in the Hidden Debate was that how do we find the conflict between Africans and Europeans? And the place that I said the flaw was that people were saying that everything was universal, right? Justice is universal. The idea of equality is universal. The idea of liberty or freedom is universal. And once I finally looked at them and found out, I said, no, these are not universal concepts. They're based on worldview. And European worldview of freedom for us, and Du Bois said it in several books, but from Dusk to Dawn, he said that we've been attached to this idea that when folks got free, that they thought freedom meant the same things that European was getting. So they thought they were going to have jobs and all this other stuff. They was free. They could go do everything. But when they got, quote unquote, free, Europeans' idea of their freedom just meant a new form of subjugation. And they changed what it was. In fact, it was actually in some ways more heinous because they didn't have clothes, they didn't have places to live, they didn't have money. So now they went to sharecropping, they got robbed for the money that they made, and they had were still in torturous conditions by Europeans. So that it didn't change to a new form of freedom. It was labeled as something, and we bought into the label and thought it was freedom. We bought into the label and thought we were going to get equality and justice. And our worldview helps us to see things differently than the European worldview. And we've got to make sure that we are analyzing things in that way so that we get to a place where we uplift ourselves from a place of strength and knowledge. Carter G. Woodson said that in Miseducation of the Negro, he basically said to us that we've got to unlearn 50% of what we get out of these institutions. So you got to go there, get your credentials, and do some other stuff, and that's all good. But you have to understand that the basis of what you're learning in those processes are systems of white supremacy. And that's why we came up with this book here. In sociology, I'm a contributing author. I co-wrote chapter 1, White Logic, White Methods, looking at racism and methodology. Our basic thing was to critique the whole idea that in sociological methods, that the methods and the theories themselves are racist, are white supremacist. And so therefore, we've got to come up with our own methods and our own theories to come up with analysis of things. This brother Tukufu Zuberi, he wrote another book called here it is right here, Thicker Than Blood. In this book here, he talks about the whole fact that of the origin of statistical analysis. Most people don't know that the origin of statistical analysis, as we see it in economics and everything now, all that came from eugenicists. This was all they developed statistical analysis to ensure a eugenics white supremacist analysis and to figure out how to do it better. And so that until we understand that, it doesn't mean you can't use statistics, but it means that you got to understand the origins of it so that what you're using is that you're using it without that white supremacist bias at the base of it. And we still have not figured that out. And so we're thinking we go to school and we got a degree in psychology, we got a degree in medicine, but we're using European white supremacist ideas underneath it. That's why during COVID, when they were taking the oxygen sensors, they finally came out with studies saying that the oxygen sensors were not adequately detecting the oxygen levels in people who were melanated because the bias was even in the sensor. Jewel Pookrum talks about even with bone density and urinalysis. She says the samples for urinalysis are from Europeans, and so therefore there's a bias in it because they present it like it's for everybody, but that there's different things in different people's makeup. That African bone density is thicker than European bone density on average, and so if they're using a European standard for bone density, that by the time you get the deterioration of your bone density on the analysis that they do, that you're probably further along than than you would think, because the bone density analysis is based on a different bone structure. And we've got to look at these things and approach them from an African-centered perspective and know that we have solutions, right? We just have to rely on ourselves to get them.
I mean, that's absolutely right. I was just thinking as you were talking, I remember years ago reading Dr. DeGrew's book, you know, and post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I know that, the mayor talks about that every now and then. And I think that all that you've said in my mind, and Brother Zaid, I think that, 99, if not 100% of what's wrong with us, because if you think about what Hawk said, that the Elijah Muhammad said, 99% of what's wrong with us is that we don't have unity amongst ourselves. But that if we had unity, we'd be able to solve our problems. The problem is that we got this Eurocentric mind, and so it's hard for us to be able to organize in an African way if we don't have any consciousness of how to do that. And so I think that all of those things that you said, and whomever that brother is that you're talking about, we definitely need to get them on, because I think that that's one of the ways to answer, how do we deal with this heaviness that's on us, right? And part of that is that we really don't have the skills to be able to deal with it from an African centric way. I mean, just the mere fact, the things you saying about, when that woman said whatever she said to you at the graduation, the fact that you refused to carry it, right, and gave it back to her, was therapy in and of itself, right? Because you said that if you had not have done that, here you are, 20 or 30 years later, you'd have been, saying, oh, I was traumatized at my own graduation by some white woman having said whatever she said, right? But you also know that, when we're educated in this system, and Zaid, this too, we're taught, just keep your temper down. Don't, what's said to you, no matter how bad it hurts you or how bad it shakes up, your emotions or whatever, don't say nothing because, what you don't want to do is look like the angry black man, right? Or, you don't want to look like some radical, old ass Black Panther, you know what I mean? And say something that's crazy to
Which
somebody,
I will.
Unless you leave.
As you say that though, it reminds me of another thing about what Kessler said, and that is that using emotions as healers. So he said, so oftentimes we're told to push away from our emotions. In this class, what they're teaching us about though is that we should be connected with our emotions and understand them, right? So that, because to say that to not be emotional suggests that you don't have emotions. It's like people who are trying to be uh, 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 not like they're racist. They want to say that I'm colorblind, and I teach in my class. I say, you're colorblind, so that means that the right wall over here is the same color as the left wall. You're not colorblind. You're blind to color, right? And so so basically I just say you're out like lying, right? Because you see all the shades in here and you're lying to yourself in the process. What you really want to say is there, so because we have a problem with trying to truncate our words too much. Like we use the word crazy all the time. Everything's crazy. This is crazy. Oh man, something's good is crazy. Something's bad is crazy. No, sometimes something is beautiful. But what I said to them is that when the person wants to say that they're colorblind, what they're trying to say is that they're not going to impose the ideas of color and racism on that, but they don't want to say all that. They want to say they're colorblind, and that's a farce. And so we've got to put that in this context, just like the whole idea of democracy, right? We got to make sure that we understand those things in holistic ways. That colorblind and the idea of now, I'm not against the ideas of democracy, right? The ideal type, but we don't live in an ideal type world, right? So then that we don't have an ideal type in terms of any of these things. So even the idea of communism, capitalism, and socialism, right? With Mbongi, it talks about communalism. We never even get to communalism because we're stuck on these other three modalities of governance. Especially on the continent, we want to either be a socialist or capitalist, and they don't even talk about communism anymore. But the thing is that we've got to realize that we have our own systems, our own ideas about this, that we've got to go back to and use those as a basis for our healing, use those as a basis for our movement forward. And then we'll do some positive stuff once we've done that.
And you're absolutely right when you talk about we have our own systems. But the problem is we don't know what those systems are. Right?
No, we do know the systems. It's just our responsibility to make sure that we're sharing them with the other brothers and sisters. So we got lots of scholars who study them and know them, and we've got to pull them into knowing their responsibilities of giving back to the community. So that's where the failing is. Maybe it's not that we don't know them, we don't have access to them. It's not that we don't have even a great economists and engineers. We have all of them, but they're doing the work of Europeans instead of the work of Africans. We got to pull all those brothers and sisters in. Yourself, you're an attorney. We got to have all the attorneys who understand stuff work for our best interest, as opposed to the best interest of somebody who's giving them a nice check. And I'm not saying you don't want to get paid, but I'm saying at the same time, how do we redirect some of that energy, some of that knowledge power back to African people, globally speaking? Because if we had more folks who do have the knowledge and access to understanding. It's some smart brothers and sisters out there who I know who know way more than me. I think I'm a baby in some of this stuff because when I contact some of those other folks and I see them and I hear them speak and I listen to them talk about the books and the this and the that, it's just that with me, I think the thing is that I take the little bit of knowledge I have and it's imbued by the spirit that has set itself upon me and that I've welcomed, and I turn that in such a way that allows me to give that back because it's not my knowledge. It's like this book I'm reading by Fukuyama, who talks about that the land is never owned by the people, that people were never afraid of death. See, we got tricked even to death. That if the Haitians not afraid of death, why not? Because they understand that this life is a cycle. Death is only a part of the cycle of this life. If we understood those kinds of things and we didn't have the fears that we have about so much today, that we would not be stuck. And so Fukuyama gives us this whole idea that African ideas of governance is transformative if we look at it from the perspective that we brought something to the table in communalism and understanding our traditional elders and using the process of that. And I met with one of the brothers when I was in Burkina Faso, the Mosi King, and he was pulling people in while I was there, negotiating between different groups about things, and they brought yams and they brought goats and all these different traditional things. But in the end, guess what? He resolved the problem. The same with the Oni. People came in, they had a huge problem that was going on for many years, and they came in, they sat down, they talked, they divined, they did all the things that were necessary. And guess what? Without a court, a European-oriented court, they resolved the issue. And that's what we need to do here. We need to find out when brothers and sisters got problems in the community. We just don't have the respect for each other to adhere to those things. So that's kind of what happened with Adelaide L. Sanford. And I don't want to go too deep into that, but somebody who was on that process didn't adhere to the community governance that was happening. And when they didn't adhere to the community governance, the thing fell apart. If they had adhered to the community governance, Adelaide would still be kicking butt today. And wisdom would be as strong as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a real style. God, you lifting up some stuff. Ed, you want to answer the ritual question?
We gotta move on. But brother, listen, man, I definitely appreciated your contribution tonight, brother. And we definitely want to get that brother to come on and let's have that dialogue and hopefully try and make that a regular part of the show where we can have that kind of conversation as it relates to dealing with our own mental health and dealing with it from an Afrocentric perspective. So the question we're going to ask you, what you're listening to now. Is there anything in hip hop that is motivating you? Anybody that's out there right now that you're listening to? You muted, brother.
I may not be as in tune as to right now, but I got to go back to my old faithful right now in the times that we're in and what's going on around the world for African people. And I'm gonna say you got to play "Fight the Power," Public Enemy. I think that we're in a time space right now where that mantra fits the bill, and that's what we need to be thinking about. Fighting the power.
That's definitely something I'm listening to too, bro. Fight the power. Well, brother Dr. Kufani, man, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your contribution, and we appreciate you staying over with us.
Anytime, my brother. Anytime. I'm thankful to be here, and y'all forward ever and backwards never.
And make sure you give us those flyers, brother, so we can post them.
I'm gonna send them to Zaid now.
Okay, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peace.
Oh.
Peace, brother Conrad. What's good, brother? You muted, Conrad, if you're trying to talk.
I had to get unmuted. How are you doing, my brothers?
Peace, brother.
Good evening. Good evening. So good to be here. All of the brothers and sisters in Newark, New Jersey, and surrounding areas. and all over the nation.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on, man?
Just there's a lot going on, and just trying to maintain and get as much clarity as possible in the midst of all that's really going on in the world. We live in some very, very difficult days, and doing a lot of praying and hoping that people who are right now suffering and who are likely to suffer in the next couple of days and weeks and months, who have been suffering, we just have to pray and see, what the God of creation will do out of this situation. I say the God of creation because I have no real confidence in the political process in this matter, and so I think this is one of those times for divine intervention.
Mm.
I don't like to see any human being suffer, and I would not join anyone who would celebrate the suffering of anyone. Suffering is it's sort of a universal opponent of humanity, and there's a lot of suffering going on right now.
That's absolutely right, man. And when you talk about the God of creation, right? And that's important because I think that it's easy for folks to look the other way, when it's not you. And one of the things that Dr. Kafani was just talking about, when he was, we were having this conversation and we went over, but he was talking about, our African traditions and those things that helped us deal with the current world we in. Because I was just, I was telling him that, my wife and I, Kim and I, we wake up in the morning. The first thing we do is we wake up and pray, right?
Yes.
Just thanking God. But there are people who don't do that, right?
Right.
And I do the other things too. I wake up, I turn on, all the media in the house. I, check my phone. I do all of that. But the first thing I find that I need to do, Brother Conrad, is for me, is that I need to connect with God. And even sometime before I even get up, I just lay there and pray in the spirit, right? Because I know when I'm getting ready to deal with, when I turn on, that television or I turn on my phone, I might not be prepared emotionally or even spiritually to deal with it. But I know if I pray first, I'm giving myself some grounding in order to be able to deal with what I'm about to tune into, and especially now, right? I mean, everything that's going on in the world today is extremely heavy, right? It's real
I
heavy.
could not agree with you more. And I pray for people who don't feel the need to pray because I don't know how they make it. And
Right.
I tell you that there are times when, we can, through our own agency and through our own action, bring about change. And then there are times when we have to tap back into the African spirituality.
Hmm.
Always been a mystical and uh, spiritual dimension uh, to our faith and our worldview. And so, excuse me, people who do not believe that there is a mystical, supernatural aspect to life. Well, I'll just say I strongly disagree with them. I mean, there are none of us right now that can stop the carnage and the suffering that is taking place at this moment. It doesn't mean that we should not be engaged in political action, but I just believe that sometimes you need the intervention of the supernatural, of
Right.
out on high. And when I look at the footage, and I have traveled to that part of the world, I have been both to Israel and Palestine. Um, it is it is a place, I'll just say, that needs a lot of prayer.
I have never been, Brother Conrad, but from my particular perspective, I mean, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is devastating. But when you start talking about people going to war, everything that I understand about war suggests in my mind exactly that, war, right? And it suggests something that's not pretty. But when you talk about, political systems that are in play, and politics, you got to remember that, politics is exactly that. People are playing to win a political war that's based around political decisions, right? But unfortunately, there are real lives that are involved, and you know when we talk about spirituality and we talk about God and you talk about that particular part of the world, I mean, we're talking about where all the great religions emanated from.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the Holy Land, uh, and so you're talking about the birthplace of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And
Right.
right in Jerusalem, you have uh, the Wailing Wall. You have the Church of uh, the Church of uh, the name is escaping me, but it is a church where a historical uh, remains of Jesus, uh, not the remains of Jesus, but rather where Jesus was um, um, buried. Um, there's a church that has been built over the centuries over the historical spot where the tomb was, and of course that's a very sacred place to the Christian community. And then you have you have the beautiful Dome of the Rock in which is a very important Islamic site and mosque. So that part of the world, the old city of Jerusalem, is extremely important.
Yep.
And you know, we we as we think about our political process, you know, obviously there's been a lot of suffering going on in that part of the world since 1948. Um, and I believe that the two-state solution is the solution. And I do think that ultimately that is the only solution at this time. I mean, there are so many factors that African Americans often aren't aware of. Yes, we're in solidarity with suffering people, the Palestinians, uh, but there are many factors in the Islamic world and the Arab world that sometimes we don't think about. And you know that is there are about 500 million Arabs in that part of the world, and only roughly 10 million Jews. So a lot of the Palestinian issue has to do with the betrayal of many of the Islamic governments. Uh, they have been sort of left out to dry. And that is not to say that I do not denounce. Um, I denounce the terrorism that we saw. I mean, we live in a world today where, these actions are on film, on camera, and there's nothing heroic. There's nothing that we should celebrate in the murder of civilians, no matter what their race, religion. That's what we object to. Uh, Surely a lot of civilians will be killed in the coming days, have been killed in the last several days in Palestine. And we have to also say that we object to the killing of those in Israel in the last several days, this past week. And you know, the to say that we support what we saw is not moral. Now, that is not to say that all war is not immoral, because all war is immoral, and all war is ugly, and all killing is ugly. And so, if we're going to be morally consistent, and we don't believe that women, children, and babies should be slaughtered, then we can't celebrate that, and we don't have any obligation to celebrate the actions of Hamas. And that's not to say that we don't support the Palestinian people, because the Palestinian people and Hamas are not synonymous.
Right.
But it is a very ugly situation. Um, and that's why at this point, Ed, if we don't have the divine intervention, uh, the cycle of killing and violence will continue, because let's face it, the US government is not going to operate with balance. It has not. We have no confidence in that. I remember Jesse Jackson said back in 1984 to Yasser Arafat, what would the Palestinian cause, um, what would it mean if the Palestinian cause had internalized some of the tactics of the civil rights movement? And I can't judge the Palestinian people and their struggle. Dr. King said he could not judge them. But one thing I do know about humanity, one thing I do know about people, is that when people see the images that they saw on television of women, children, babies being killed and kidnapped, that is not going to engender a lot of sympathy for the cause. Now, there are those who say that that is Hamas's objective, to derail the peace process. Then there are those who say that the Saudis and others have basically decided to have a peace process without the consent or even the concern of the Palestinian people. But the point I'm making is that we can pray for that region of the world, and we should, because we have historical connections there. Not that there aren't these kinds of genocides going on in our own native continent of Africa, and so we're in a very difficult place in the world. I wish I had the answers. I wish I was as smart as some folks that seem to know exactly how they feel. And no, I want to see the Palestinian people free, treated humanely in a nation of their own, a contiguous nation with dignity. But I also want to see them living side by side in peace with their Jewish neighbors. And I don't see any other way around it. I have traveled to that part of the world. Israel is a fact on the ground, as much of a fact on the ground as America is. It is a nation state that, however you feel about its founding, however you feel about its tactics, and some of the political and military things that it has done over the course of its existence, it is a fact on the ground. And so my view is that the only hope uh, uh, for a just solution and to end the cycle of violence. Ed, I was looking at the University of Pennsylvania yesterday, my alma mater. 30 years ago, uh, this was an issue 30 years ago on that campus. And now some of the billionaires have said that the president of Penn should resign, and the people who donate and contribute to the university should stop contributing to the university because there was a pro-Palestinian convention. And so this we've seen this issue. You know, you all are older than I am. This has been going on, and so that's why I'm praying that the two-state solution can come about, because generations have died, generations of children have died on both sides. Rivers of blood run between them, and so I can only pray for peace. I can only hope for a two-state solution. I don't see any other way. Do I see any other solution? No, I don't.
But here's the thing, though, is that comrade, listen, that's been tried, right? You talk about how long this has been going on, and that doesn't seem to be working, right? Trying to, get a two-state solution going, that just doesn't seem to be going. And what we need to do is, in my mind, is that it seemed that maybe there needs to be some sort of conversation based around coexistence, right? Where as opposed to trying to build a two-state solution, because that just doesn't seem to be working. Is it possible for these folks to even live together? Is that possible?
Well,
Right?
I think that's the issue. I think there are some who have been moving away from the two-state solution, as seeing that it's not really possible. But then when you look at the tension and the history and the different cultures, it would be very difficult for me to see a one-state solution that would not end up being a Jewish democratic state with a Palestinian minority that would be in constant conflict. I think in order for the Palestinian people to live out their destiny and live out their dignity and their culture, there needs to be a state. And many have tried. Bill Clinton came close. I mean, one of the issues is that the Palestinians want a contiguous state. The Palestinian state now exists of two parts of Palestine that are essentially cut off from each other, and both on different sides of the country. And so, nobody, trust me, nobody will be satisfied when and if the final borders are drawn. And I do believe they will be drawn, because at some point, human beings will ultimately say that, the land, the history is important, but human life is more important. And it, this is a very complicated region, because every town, every area, every part of these countries has a historical and religious significance. And so it's not like, just splitting up some territory that's not rooted in a complicated historical context. So what I'm simply saying is, nobody will initially be satisfied when they get to that contiguous state. But if they can get to some fair borders that allow the dignity for the Palestinian people, then I believe that what they give up, in terms of, what was in the Bible, or what was historic, or what their forefathers had, if they may lose some of that, but both Palestinian and Israeli children might be able to grow up not living in fear, not being consumed by bitterness and hatred, because the cycle of violence will never stop. if we don't do that. For example, the Israelis are uh, certainly justified, and you know that when they see their women and children spat upon and their hair pulled and women defecating on themselves, being taken hostage, and elders and babies, they're not going to say, and it's really foolish for us to think that people would say, well, our government has some bad policies, and historically, our government has done this to the Palestinians. That's not the way human nature works. They're going to remember what was done to their babies. And
Mhm.
similarly, the Palestinians, the reason why a person could do that, could commit those kind of atrocities, is that they are completely indifferent to the humanity of the people they're doing it to, probably because they feel that it has already been done to them, and they've seen their babies blown up, and they've seen their children murdered, and their women. And so, in other words, the cycle is not going to stop unless the cycle is stopped. And I don't see a way other than a two-state solution. Um, I don't know, brother. Maybe Baba Zaid does, or someone else, but that's my view. I mean, this has really uh, uh, been troubling and taxing for me this last week.
Well, I think that's something, man, that we definitely gonna have to pick up on, because I think that that's where the real conversation is. Or I don't know if that idea of a two-state solution can work, right? Because I remember when Yasser Arafat
Mhm.
was trying to float that idea, and I'm old enough to have been around when Anwar Sadat and have
Mhm.
seen that as a young man, and remember, I mean, one of my undergraduate degrees is in political science, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I would consider myself a political scientist, and saying I understand some degrees to which you negotiate on those levels. However, when you see those types of things that you're talking about, where people are being murdered and killed, and you see women and children, it's hard to see a way to be able to negotiate in that and live in that when you live that kind of pain. So that this conversation, I would think,
Mhm.
would need for us to think about that and really
Yeah.
invoke the spirit of God, and try to find the kind of healing first before you can get to that. But because I don't even know if that's possible, it would seem to me that people need to learn to live in peace, right? And how do you live in peace? Because everything that we've learned coming up is, Brother Conrad, you notice that if there's no justice, there can't be no peace, right? So we've got to get justice first, and the question is how does that start? And in my mind, you would need a God solution in order to get to that. Because
Well, that's exactly that's exactly what I'm saying. The issues are so complex. I mean, this is not a simple matter. Even the presence of the state of Israel, it's not a simple matter. That area was ruled by the Ottoman Turks um, uh, uh, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, after pogroms in Europe and after different persecutions. Jews began to go to that area of the world, and it was obviously through the Zionist ideology. But let's look at it. Let's face it. There were a lot of absentee Palestinian landowners and Ottomans who essentially sold a lot of the land to the European immigrants that formed the kibbutzes and formed the framework of what will become eventually a state. And so this is a fact that this happened. And so, as I said, the Palestinians are a sympathetic people. Pardon me, in that many of the Muslim countries have abandoned them, have never
Yep.
been truly concerned about their well-being. And so, when you consider that, and then when you consider the 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 sort of fact that the state of Israel is a well-formed nation state, and when you think about I mean, this is just the latest. This is just the latest um, um, uh, round of this. I mean, how many have we seen? I mean, I remember when I first went to college, there were 200, I think, 85 Marines that were blown up in Lebanon in 1983. I mean, there was the 73 war. I mean, how many rounds of this have we seen? And so I agree with you, Ed.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any solution to this that is not a divine solution.
Yep.
I really believe that. I really believe that.
Me too. Yep. Because as I said, brother, it's just based on, I'm almost 62 years old, man, and this has been going on ever since I've been a child, brother. You know what I mean? And I've been seeing it, and now we're at this point, and people are talking about total annihilation of people. Man, this is some serious stuff. You know what I mean? And those things that I understand, and that's why for me, it's so much pain on both sides, man, that in my mind you need God himself to step in. So, but brother Conrad, I want to say thank you, my
Well,
brother.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I don't have a whole lot to offer tonight. But as I think about the people of that region, but as I think about the Palestinian people that are now being bombarded, and that also now are perhaps preparing for an invasion, or or now the refugees that were displaced from 1948 stand to be displaced again, as they're being told 2 million people to leave their area and go to Egypt or go to different places. And as I think about Israel and the people who were killed, who are kidnapped, the babies that were killed, my heart is with all of the people of that region.
Yeah.
And I know that, I will never celebrate or be indifferent to that kind of carnage, because I don't believe that it's the religion of Islam. I don't believe it's the Judaic religion. And it certainly should not be the Christian faith. And that's why I think our government should be doing more to be an honest broker to have solved this problem. Um, so I pray.
Yep. Well, I join you in that prayer, brother, and thank you very much, my brother, for coming through tonight. And
Have a good evening. All right. God bless.
Peace, brother. Good evening, my sister. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, and thank you all for having me once again. How you doing?
Good to have you, my queen. Good to have you. I have a household issue that just came up. Just been going on. And let me just give Kim a quick introduction. Kim is one of our indigenous. I'm going to use the word because it doesn't get used right a lot. Right? We can talk about indigenous 500 years ago. We can't talk about indigenous locally. But one of our indigenous pioneering environmental justice warrior queens. And there's an important issue that is in front of the city council right now that they've taken the lead on. That's very important. I definitely want her to lift up, right? And we want us to lift up because it's an important challenge of our moment that we need to get a grip on right now. So Kim, welcome. Right, y'all just give me a hot second. Keep talking, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. Can Okay. Thank you once again. It is a this issue that I want to talk about this evening, and thank you, Brother Baba and Ed, for allowing me to discuss this Wednesday, October 18th, at the Municipal Council meeting in the City Hall at 6:30 is our opportunity to discuss the changes that will be made in the zoning ordinance. And these are changes that will disrupt the very fabric of our city. It will change our communities forever. And so it is so important that we inform our residents to come out and to speak up. Four of the top issues are making sure that we restore minimum housing standards and environmental justice protections, that continue to protect our community from flooding, more polluting facilities, warehouses. We don't need any new liquor stores, bars, vape shops, hotels in some of the neighborhoods. And so this new zoning would allow that kind of development to occur on streets and communities where it just shouldn't be. We also want to make sure that we reinstate the public notices and hearings for proposed developments. In this current zoning changes that the municipal council is going to vote on the 18th, it takes away our right to speak up and about these new developments that might come into our communities. And so we just want to make sure that the community understands, because when it comes to zoning, everything is in the details. And in this new zoning ordinance, the devil is in the details. And, we have a mayor who truly believes that it's important for residents to have a voice and to speak up. And this zoning, if it's passed by the municipal council, it takes all that away. It's based on what we call the DAD model, where policies are decided, and then they're announced, and then they're defended. We come from a community, and especially from environmental justice, that we have to have meaningful participation in the narrative of what our community is supposed to look like. And we have to have a seat at the table. And so with the way this has been presented, yes, there was 8 community meetings, but residents responded, and we didn't get one response back from the city on the recommendations that the community put forth. And so we're saying, hey, just pump the brakes, take a pause, don't vote on this on the 18th, bring it back out to the community. But right now, we don't think that's going to happen. And so I personally want to thank you on behalf of the South Ward Environmental Alliance, our 5 Ward Task Force, for giving us this opportunity to kind of talk about how important this issue is for all Norkers.
Let's back up, because it sounds like, just for folks who don't know, and a lot of us, our community has a long way to go to be conscious, organized participants in what we now call environmental justice, even though Newark has got an incredible history on that front, right? It sounds like, and I want you to just lay this out and be as detailed as you need to. Sounds like we have something on the books that's sound, that's being tweaked, that's no longer nearly as sound as what we already have, in order to appease a new wave of developers who want to come in and just disregard all of what we have in the book that speaks to the very principles that you're talking about.
Yes.
Am I right on that? Right. So
yes.
How did that happen? How did this backpedaling take place?
Well, we originally started with the 360 master plan, and the mayor made sure that there was numerous amount of meetings throughout the whole city. Organizations was involved, businesses were involved, residents were involved. And so we had an input on our master plan. So now that the master plan was adopted, now you have to have an adjacent zoning policy and ordinance that supports the master plan. But the problem is the city hired consultants, individuals who don't have, I'm a 4th generation Norker, and individuals who are vested in the city. They have outside consultants who don't understand the history of our community. And so on paper, they're looking at what might look good for our community, but it won't be good for our community. And so from the master plan, the consultants that was hired by the city are verifying these, validating these changes, excuse me, by saying, but the community, this is what they wanted in the 360 master plan. No, it's not. We talked about added green space in our communities. Yes, we want businesses, but we don't want businesses that harm our communities or put more pollution in our community. Yes, we want to make sure there's affordable housing for residents, but we don't want you to allow 78% of the city of Newark is owned by, private owners, LLCs. You would allow the ability for AUD dwellings, additional units of housing, which is a garage in the back of a house, to now become a house. And that is just something that Newark, we can't support that, because we know, yes, if it was a homeowner, maybe the grandmother or the mother would then move into the smaller housing unit. But that's not the case for some of the Northers. That's just not the case. They're renters. And so that's going to be another opportunity for the developers to rent this space to somebody. And so everything that's in it, they're putting it under the skies that, well, this is going to make more affordable housing. And it's not, because despite the inclusionary zoning ordinance, it will create incentives to demolish and redevelop current rent control housing units. So now you're going to increase the housing, but you're going to increase it so the individuals who would normally want to live in our community and stay here, they'll be priced out. Because what you say is affordable is not affordable to our Norkers. And so this whole process that Deputy Mayor Allison Ladd and the consultants put together, I believe is not what the mayor intended it to be. And now they don't want to kind of roll back because they think it's too far out of the gate. And remember, when you put zoning changes into law, they're on the books, for the next 20 years. And so it will be difficult for us to then change the harm that they already did in our communities. And so that's why this is so crucial. And I can send you the links to our pages with a 400-page document. We had to hire a consultant to help us because they was giving us a week and 2 weeks notice to then come and talk about a document that's 400 pages. So it is just, this is just not for Newark at this time. And we're just hoping that the city, our elected officials who we elect and hold them in trust, will just pump the brakes and say, hey, we've had over 1,000 residents make comments. Let's maybe take another look at this before we vote on this new zoning ordinance.
And you've been very polite and very gracious, right? And I appreciate your regality, right? But gentrification is an MFer, right? And let's, are there real identifiable forces that we need to be looking at and trying to out organize and isolate that are twisting the arms of folks who we voted for? And right now, if we had to do the math, we got a city council of eight to nine folks, right? Where is the majority of our city council on this particular issue, given what you're so rightfully raising?
So it was 9 members of the Newark Municipal Council. 4 members are against it. That is Louis Quintana, Honorable Ramos, Gonzalez, and Silva. So you had 2 abstentions and 2 noes. The other 5 members are right now supporting this. And that's a sad mandate because the South Ward, the West Ward, the East Ward, and the Central Ward is where people of color reside.
Right.
That is where the most marginalized individuals live and who will be impacted by this. And we need our leadership to stand on the side of the residents and support us. But right now, they're not supporting us. And so we're hoping that if we pack that municipal council, it can tug on somebody to kind of say, maybe we need to look at this again.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You get ready to say something there. Go ahead.
And this is going to be on this Tuesday,
Wednesday, October 18th.
Wednesday. So can you just explain the real danger if this is allowed to pass in the council? Make it real plain. If this is allowed to pass, in the danger, what the real danger is to our people, particularly with you know you having 5 black council people who could dial this back. So if this is that harmful,
Yeah, ain't no time for no abstentions either. Straight up. We got some folks we need to talk to.
yeah. So if we're saying that this is that dangerous to our people, is there something that these particular 5 council people just don't understand? So can you just explain why is it so dangerous to our people?
Well, when you think about some of the changes and you're looking at changing one family homes where now the owner can convert it to a 2-family home without even notifying the residents. A 2-family home become a 3-family, a 3 becomes a 4, where you used to could develop maybe a 10 story apartment building. Now you can make it into 70 and 80. So you're going to have overcrowding, right? Overcrowding in our community without transportation. So where you had a lot, for example, if I look at the corner of Bergen Street and Lyons Avenue, I grew up on Hunterdon Street, which used to be our City National Bank. They're going to convert, they can build a 20-story apartment building on that lot with no parking. You already have Hunterdon Street, where you have 1-family and 2-family homes, and not everybody have a driveway. Where are people going to park? We know that transportation in our community is a problem. And so then when you think about now changing 1 family to 2-family, 2-family, 3 to 4, we already have flooding in our communities. The infrastructure that Newark is based, was built on cannot even hold what we currently have. Now you're going to be adding to that infrastructure. You see the sinkholes that are occurring in our city. You see, the flooding when it rains just for 5 minutes. Now you want to add more blacktop, more housing, and then you want to add, and it's not saying that I'm against businesses, but why would you put vaping shops, bars, more liquor stores in communities as opposed to bringing in more big green businesses, mom and pop stores, grocery stores, things that the community needs to help sustain them and support them. So that becomes dangerous because now you are increasing this neighborhood threefold with all these other elements that don't need to be in this space. And then lastly, I have to say this because I do think, as Brother Baba said, developers have to be in the pockets of some of these council people because you're making decisions that only benefit them. 78% of our city is renters. But now you're going to make it easier for developers to develop. That's dangerous because now I have a house that I've lived in all my life. I want to keep my house. You got these outside landlords that now they want to look at their house that was now a 3-family. Oh, I can make more money. I'm going to convert this to a 6-family. I don't have to notify the neighbors in this neighborhood. Now you're going to have more transient people moving in and out, which cause problems in our community. So it forever changes the fabric of neighborhoods, and that's why it's so dangerous. And it has to be stopped. It just has to be stopped.
And so this is going to be Wednesday, the 17th,
The 18th.
Wednesday the 18th, and is that an evening?
Yes,
No?
6:30. 6:30, and because it's coming up for second second vote and final passage, you don't even have to sign up. You just come up, and when that agenda item comes up, as many people who want to speak on this ordinance can speak. And so that's what we need. We need to make sure that we pack the room. Everybody comes on Wednesday, October the 18th, 6:30, City Hall, 920 Broad Street, to show up, let your voices be heard, to let people know we care about our communities, we care about our people, and we need economic, environmental, and social justice. And this goes against all of that.
Now, is this the first time it's coming up for vote?
For final vote, yeah. Well, they had the first reading 2 weeks ago. So the way that the ordinances are passed in the city, you have the first reading, right? That the municipal council vote, and at that time, you had 5 people to say yes and 4 to say no. So that's why it was able to come up for second and final passage on the 18th.
And so you ID'd who those 5 that said yes, and who are those 4 that said no, right?
So I said the 4 who said no. The 5 who supported it was our West Ward Councilman, Kelly Dupree, our South Ward Councilman, Pat Council, our Central Ward Councilwoman, McIver, our at-large, Reverend Roundtree, and our at-large, Larry Crump.
Wow. Wow. And you said this was put forth by Allison Ladd?
Yes, the deputy mayor. And
And
so the mayor, and I had a conversation with the mayor, and I do want to thank the mayor and my councilman, Pat Council, for some of the changes. But that's why we shouldn't rush it. Because when I had some conversations with Pat Council, had some conversations with the mayor didn't know. He was like, what? Of course it's in there that residents will be able to speak and say, I said, Mayor, it's not in there. And so this is why you have to have more conversation, because the devil is in the detail. Nobody is reading 400 pages of documents. They're relying on their staff, right? Or somebody else. And we have to say, no, your staff, because you hire consultants, they don't have the love that we have for Newark in our community. They're paid to do a job. So they're doing the bidding of somebody else, not the residents. And so if we could get them to vote it down and give us more time to come back, so you could continue to make changes, because they did make some changes based on what we asked, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
And so the mayor, your conversation with the mayor was that he was not aware of some of the things that were in this particular ordinance, or that he wasn't aware that they weren't aware of what was in the ordinance.
Right. On that particular item about the public being able to speak, he wasn't aware of that. And this was several months ago. I haven't talked to him since. I saw him at the Juneteenth event. And this is how far we're going back. And he went back, and then I talked to my councilman, Pat Council, and they made some changes, but it's still not where it should be. And so, when you have someone like the mayor who believes in people power, this goes against that. And somebody, the consultants, I'm not sure who it is, because the mayor believes in affordable housing. They're saying this is the way to improve affordable housing. And we're saying, no, it's not. It's not, because the devil is in the detail. It's affordable housing for who? Not Norkers.
Yeah.
It's gentrification. And we know what that is. That means that the people who have stayed in this city and want to stay here, they're going to be priced down.
Yeah, we've had this conversation with the mayor based around what the income is in the city of Newark versus what the income is in the state. And the problem is that when they look at the AMI for the city of Newark, they're judging the AMI in the city of Newark to be that of the state, right? So the state is 37,000, and the city of Newark is 23,000.
Come on, come on.
So we've had that conversation, and that is why we've got to be talking about not affordable housing, but we've got to be talking about low income housing, right? For low income residents, right? That's something that they can afford, and that is why I think that that language needs to be changed, where we're not talking about affordable, but we're talking about low income housing, which fits the salaries of the or the incomes of the folks who are from the city of Newark, who've been living in the city of Newark, and who have been fighting in this city to stay here, right? That's a good component. So you're right, in terms of all that you say. It would seem to me though that those very people that you just ID'd are the very people who we should be able to count on to help us get this thing dialed back.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, because it's the people of color, the most marginalized, the people who need the help the most. Is this will definitely impact them more so than anybody,
Right,
because other folks, we know they're coming to Newark and they could afford to come,
right,
right? But the history, the culture, right? These are people who want to stay.
right,
And we're just allowing them to be displaced, like, and thrown out like trash. And our people are better than that, and they deserve more. And so that's why we have to stand up, because zoning, these zoning changes is very dangerous, and they don't help us. It's an agenda by other people who don't really want to see us staying in our own communities. And that's what I believe, and that's what I know, and that's what I'm seeing by these changes.
wow. Well, I just I appreciate you bringing this to all politics are local and bringing it to our attention, because we definitely don't want that to happen. I mean, because we've had Charles Barron on this show, and Charles is one of the ones who have been educated us.
Charles used to run him out of East Brooklyn,
Yeah,
Yeah,
East New York. He did not play that.
yeah,
And they hated him, but they respected him. He did not let them come into East New York, Brooklyn with that mess.
yeah.
yeah,
And you hear people already say Newark is the next Brooklyn. It's been coming. And again, we have to, we want some changes in our community, right? We want certain kind of developments, but we have to be able to have communities that can coexist, and there's a mixture, that it's not all for people who make 100,000, 200,000 and more can stay in this area. The
right,
folks who make 50,000 and under, you can only be here.
right,
No, we have to make sure we can be in all of the wards and live a better quality of life
right,
that isn't impacted by environmental degradation and nuisance, with liquor bars and vape shops. Like, I don't even know why you have to just establish a whole statement around vaping shops and hookah bars. And I don't even understand why you even have to bring that in. They should fall under the same rules, regulation, and guidelines like any other business.
mm,
But making a special kind of,
Or dump them on us.
I mean, come on. I don't understand. And so, I thank you. I do want to thank the members of our 5-ward task force, because this is just not the South Ward. We have members who represent every ward. And I thank them, for standing up and fighting. And we don't want this to be a Hispanic versus a Black. That's not what this conversation is about. Because when you think about the 4 individuals who, 2 abstained and 2 voted no. And I'm not even going to have that conversation with individuals, right?
mm,
The conversation we should be having, this is about all Norkers. And we know that the North Ward, right? And, they have some things over there that a lot of our other wards never had and never will have, right? And so, yes, they stand up and they fight, but we've been fighting in the other wards. We've been fighting. And so we don't deserve this kind of treatment from our leaders that we elected. And so we just want them to take another look and stop saying this is only coming from voices of the North Ward or the East Ward. No, I'm a South Ward, fourth generation individual, and the South Ward is standing strong, just like all the other wards. And the South Ward is where our mayor, our senators, our congressmen, our at large. I mean, we have most of the elected officials in the South Ward.
Right.
And these changes will impact our ward the most.
You can believe that. Listen, now, Kim, are there some links that we can share with our listeners? I just put our petition on the petition. You have it on our Facebook page. Are there any other links? Yeah, we need to have a call-in link or something like that.
So you put up the www.linktr.ee/Newark zoning.
I think I did.
And then we have www.change.org.
Oh, I put up change.org. That's what I saw.
Okay, so that's one. And then where they can go for our resources is www.linktr.ee/Newark zoning. And that has the full letter that we sent to all our council people. It actually has the changes in the zoning. It's a lot of resources. All the articles that have been posted. It has the individuals that have supported us, Senator Teresa Ruiz, our assembly members as well, Pinto Marin and Spate. So it has all those individuals who have been standing up and supporting us, and you can actually see it's in black and white what the zoning changes would be, what they was in the past, and what we're trying to keep and maintain. So all that information is there for individuals to read. And if they still want to reach out to me, they can reach out to Kim Gaddy at South Ward, SOUTHWARDEA@gmail.com.
Put both of those in the chat. I definitely missed something trying to bring it up that quick. I don't want to miss.
Yeah, so that we can definitely go there and download that information, and we need to post that on All Politics Are Local, right?
Sir.
We need to post that for Tuesday so that folks will, be educated when they walk in that room about what the facts are, right?
Yeah.
And be able to have an educated conversation that is void of emotion and cussing folks out in the in the council chamber, but have a conversation that is based around the very lives of the people that are going to be affected, right? Because we're talking about people, right, who are in some cases, right, one paycheck away from being homeless.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we've got to have those very real conversations with those people, and they've got to be able to understand that if you have not read this document and if you do not understand this document, then what we need to do is have community meetings with folks who can read this document for us and explain it to us, right? So that way we can vote, right, intelligently about these particular decisions that you all are empowered to make, right? Because this is going to live long after you all are gone. And we all ought to do something
later if you're not careful.
Yeah, and we all ought to do something about making sure all of our people don't end up down at Newark Penn Station sleeping outside, right? Because this is very real. And if you don't understand it, then what you ought to do is excuse yourself from being able to vote on this at this very moment because
Yeah.
it's very real. So
Yes, it is.
well, we need that information. We need to make it available, but we need community meetings, right? We need to have those so that people understand what that is, and that is why these particular people who are on this council are very important to making sure that those people who don't make $37,000 don't get priced out onto the street, right?
Exactly.
And that's the language we need to be using, right? We need to make it very black and white, right? Very black, right? Just in terms of having those conversations, and there was a time when you all sitting up here wasn't making $110,000 either, right? And and
About
and
that.
let's keep that real and explain that there are young people who want to get their lives started in the city of Newark, and unfortunately, if
The
this,
elders want to remain in Newark.
yeah, and others and the elders want to remain who are on fixed incomes, right? You know,
Mhm.
not afford, for an owner to all of a sudden say, because remember, they did pass an ordinance that did not allow, as you know, did not allow the owners to come back and raise the rent, $1,500, $1,600, right? They said that you could only, the mayor had put forth, this bill that said, look, you can only raise it by this particular amount. You can't go from 700 to all of a sudden asking folks for 2,200. That's just
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And that's why we need these protections too, because, you if we allow these changes to occur, more and more people are gonna buy these homes. Well, they're basically stealing them because our senior citizens, they can't afford them. Uh, and people are walking in our neighborhoods, calling up on the phone and just saying, hey, I'll give you this much for it, knowing that that property is more value. And so then you have senior citizens when they should be enjoying their life, right?
Right.
Now they're put in places where they shouldn't even be. They shouldn't even be living in some of the conditions that they're living in. And so you're exactly right. We have to be able to see the information. And that's why we put it out there with full transparency. And that's what we want the city to do as well.
Right.
Because when individuals see in black and white what you're saying, they're going to understand and make the best decision for themselves.
Right.
And that's what the communities. It's not like we are telling it. No, the community read it and said,
Right.
"Oh, I got to get on this." And so then we, in turn, expect our elected officials to do the right thing
That's right.
Right.
for the people who elected them into office.
Right.
And that's all we ask them. Give us some time. What is
Right.
the rush?
Right.
This is going to be on the books for 30 years. What
Yeah.
is the rush?
Yeah.
Just take a pause, pump the brakes, stop. Let's have some more conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we want.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly what should be said, right, to all of those council members, right? Should simply
All
be
of them.
said that I think that what we need is we need some church meetings, right? We need to take this into the community. We need to have some dialogue. We need to bring some professionals in, right? And explain this to our people in very black and white language. Let's talk to those particular people who understand what zoning is, right? Let's talk to people who are going to explain to us how somebody who has a 2-family or 3-family house now, when the zoning has changed, can literally go and tear their house down and build a 22 floor apartment building, right, on my property. And now all of a sudden the median rent is going to be somewhere around $3,000 a month, right?
Yeah,
How am
yeah,
I to afford to live that in that? And particularly if those jobs aren't in this community, right? Where are these people going to be working? Who have those jobs, right? Because we also know that a lot of the young people who are graduating in this city cannot afford to stay here. Why? Because they've got more debt than they've got income,
right.
right? You graduate from college, that's one debt. Then you go to grad school, that's another debt, and then you end up going to law school or PhD, that's another debt, right?
Right.
If you're not making income that's commensurate to all the debt you got, well, at some point, right, you either end up homeless or you got to leave the city to go and try and find a job that's going to pay you enough money to pay back your student loans.
Right. And I want to just put a thank you, because exactly what you said. The Victoria Foundation actually gave us funding to hire Damien from Hector Design, who was a former zoning officer for the city of Newark, because we didn't, we weren't the experts. And so I want to thank, the Victoria Foundation for supplying us with that funding to Southwood Environmental Alliance and ICC, so that we can have this honest conversation. And exactly what you said, you have to have time when you bring in outside experts to kind of meet us where we are, right? We have to meet people where they are. And then you have to explain the information in digestible ways so that they can then internalize it and then understand what is really happening. And
Right.
probably some of the council members need it interpreted in a way that they can understand it, so
That's right.
then they can make a different, vote. But
That's right.
they're not saying that, and they don't want to look like, well, maybe, I just got to go along to get along. No, you
Right.
don't have to.
Right. 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 You absolutely don't have to. I mean, that is why you're there. You are, supposed to be protecting the people, right? And you have a staff, and that staff is supposed to be able to help you get the information that you don't have, so that when you go to make excuse me, go to make that vote, right? And the other thing is, the council could also get experts, right, to come in and
Yes.
explain that to them, you know
Hmm.
say, well, here's what's been presented here today. Can you give me the pros and cons based around what is being said? And is that a vote that needs to be made today? And if not, then because if we're talking about something sitting on the books for 30 years, if it doesn't have to be voted on today, then what we need is we need to make sure that we've done our due diligence with regards to making sure that we understand all of the elements of this particular ordinance, right? And how it's going to affect the people in this community.
Right. And the person who is pushing the rush button is the Deputy Mayor Allison Ladd. She's just pushing this button.
Wow.
And again, and that's what I'm saying, who's in her ear, right? To make her, fast track
Right.
this.
Right. Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah. It would seem to me that I mean, I don't know, but it would seem to me that someone, whatever this organization is, um, these folks who did this, that you all hired, it would seem to me I would try and request a community meeting with the mayor before Wednesday. That's something, I would do, and then ask the mayor if he would be willing to go to the city council with us on our behalf and ask from a community level to say, man, would you speak on our behalf? We've explained it to you. You are our mayor, voted for you. And would you ask this council who ran on your ticket if they would slow the brakes and give us an opportunity to be able to understand it? It would,
Yeah, and we sent it to him too, and we're going to reach back out to him, on Monday as well, because we also had our staff hand deliver, on Thursday, the same document to the council and the mayor. And we're starting to call, because we know that sometimes, information is held, and the mayor might not see it until, a certain point. And so
right,
we wanted to be clear. No, let's take it to the mayor, even though we sent it to Deputy Mayor Allison Ladd. I don't know how much she's, giving the mayor or talking to him. So we said, hey, let's also send it to the mayor
I ain't
again.
vote for no
And
Allison.
let's call.
Right.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying, listen, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying is the community needs to get organized, right? And the
Right.
community needs to say, well, this is what's going to happen on Wednesday, and what we're asking for, Mayor, is if you can give us 30 minutes of your time, right? The community would like to talk to you, and we're asking if you would speak on our behalf at the city council meeting and ask these people who voted on your ticket, right, if they would slow their brakes so that we can have some community meetings so that our community understand what this is going to be effective, because we can't, you can't, it, I'm just saying simply in my mind, we can't assume that, oh, the mayor had an opportunity to read it or somebody really told him what it was about. But if we ask a meeting and a group of us go down, and with reasonable minds, I'm not saying, oh, mosquito, what I mean, all that. We want to
Yeah.
talk. We're community representatives, Mayor. We voted for you, and here's what we need. We need some help, right?
Yeah.
And this, yet I don't know, enough about Allison Ladd to know that, whether she's working in good faith or not. I don't know that, right? What I do know is that, if this is not a good zoning law, then we need to take a look at it, right?
Right.
And I'm going to make it my business to go and look at all of the information that you just put up there. I'm going to make
Thank
it my
you.
business between now and Wednesday, educate myself on.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
You
I
know, so,
appreciate that because
so
that's
a
all we
little
want
more.
people to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I would hope that the community does the same. But what I would recommend, right, is that you all who have brought in the experts, you all who have done the research, you all who know this document, you know I would request a meeting with the mayor between now and Wednesday, right, to have an opportunity to present that for him and to ask him for his help, right, and ask him, man, here's what we say is in this document. Would you take a look at it and tell us, what you see in it, and is it possible for you to assist us in us getting, some help, right? And what we're asking for in terms of help is we just say give us time to delay it and to review it so that more and more people will understand what this document is.
Right. And so we're definitely going to reach back out because we sent him something last week. But again, we don't know if it got into his hands. And so
Right.
I thank you for that. And we're gonna step it up and make sure
Yeah.
that we request it.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Like you said,
Right.
we know who is in charge, his deputy mayor,
Right.
but you know, we don't know what she's
Right.
doing and not doing and what conversation. She says she's having conversations with the mayor, but
Right. You can't assume, right?
right.
Even if it requires, right, y'all going to the steps of City Hall, right, and having a press conference down there, right,
Us. That's
having
right.
a meeting, right,
Hmm.
and simply saying, here's a document that was presented, and lay out the facts, right? Don't, I mean, these are the facts, right? This is not hyperbole. This is not, emotion speaking. These are the facts. This is what this is what our experts found, and this is what the effects are going to be. These are this is what the real income is in the city of Newark, and here's how it's going to affect folk. And yes, is it real? We can show you people who live underneath the bridge downtown Newark. We can show you people who go in the bathroom and they wash their behinds in City Hall. Why? These are people who used to live in our community, right?
Hmm.
Who no longer can afford that. I'm not saying that's all of the folks down there, but that is some of our people,
Indeed.
right?
Indeed it is.
And those are real pictures. Now, if that requires bringing that to City Hall, taking those pictures, or bringing those people to City Hall, let's do it, right? That's listen, I saw one of the congressmen who used to be a prosecutor, right? When they were trying to prove their points, what they did was they had their staffs go out and take pictures of people who were affected by the laws they were getting ready to make. And what he did was is that when his time came, he brought those pictures. Said, "This is what y'all. This is what this is going to do. You want to know what this is going to do? That's what it's going to do, right?" And those people at that those Congress people had to think about it and say, "You know what? Let me pump my brakes. I didn't know that." And
Right.
now other people, right, will begin to say, "Wow, I didn't know that," right?
Hmm.
Because remember, most of our people are visual, right? Most of us aren't, like you said, we're not going to take the time to read a 400-page document. We want you to tell that to us. They pay people like me to read 400 pages, right?
That's right.
Right? Most people are not going to sit down and read 400 pages, right?
Yeah, they're not.
So, I tell my mother-in-law that all the time, when she get medical stuff and all of that, and I tell her, I say, I read that stuff for fun, mom. You know what I mean? Right?
Right. Right.
She's like, I can't understand one word to the I know. I get it, right? You know, and but I'm reading that, but that's why we need people who can do that for us to explain that, you know.
Right.
I had a conversation, with a brother today, and he was saying he was reading a document to say and R, right? Well, we did it wasn't and it was and R. It sounds like he's saying either or, right? One or the other. Didn't say
Hmm.
get them both. You got to. They ask you to make a choice and or. You
Right.
can get this one, or you can get that one. So he couldn't differentiate between the and or. Well, that's what they tell him. But
Right.
that's how it's worded for our people, and that's why we have to make sure those of us who understand that we help our people be able to get to that,
Right.
because that old saying, Kim, that says that what is success if all it means is you're successful, but the masses of our people are not
Or
successful?
not. That's right.
What does that mean? Right?
Yeah. Hmm.
It's lonely, you
Yeah.
know, being in that room by yourself. But I'd love to be able to take all of y'all with me.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
I definitely support, what you're trying to get done, but I would encourage you to definitely push to make sure that this document is in the mayor's hand, that he understands what this is, and that you all have at least had an opportunity to ask for his help.
Yes. Yes. And we're going to do that again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Ed,
You
got to
know,
ask the
to get
ritual
to it.
question. Hold on, Kim.
Yeah.
We got to ask you one more question. We got to ask you the ritual question, Ed.
So Kim, that we are a political hip hop talk show, right?
Hmm.
So what we do is that when we're going through, as we're fighting these uphill and downhill battles, you know we try and find music, particularly hip hop music or spoken word that speak to whatever those conditions are. What are you listening to right now that is motivating you to continue this fight?
Well, the last time I was on, I always put up my Queen Latifah. That's just who I am, ladies first.
Yeah,
But Lauren Hill has been coming up to the top, ready or not. The score. You just gotta, ready or not, here I come. Right, we
okay.
we coming. So, but
I'm ready or not the Delphonics first. I'm sorry.
Uh,
so Lauren Hill today is I've been
okay.
listening to, 50 years and now she's coming back and gonna have a concert. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like I just been kind of like so proud,
yeah,
of Lauren Hill and where she is right now. So
yeah. She's gonna be. I think Wednesday she's gonna be down at the Prudential
that,
Center
yeah.
along with the food.
We got to go to City Hall before we go to the show.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's what we need. So
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Isn't that something? Something that's important. They bring Lauren Hill on the same day. You know, you know.
right,
They
you
always.
know.
It's always a duality with us as black folks, right? Do we go here to party or do we go here to fight for our survival?
get with
You
this,
know,
or you can get with that.
Yeah, you can get with this, right?
it's like I gotta be here, but then I want to run there.
Yeah.
My
That's
queen, it's
right.
good to see you. I appreciate what you're doing. Very proud of you. You know we had your back. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank
good.
Y'all
you.
have a good one. Peace and blessings.
All right.
Peace.
Ashe, ashe.
Okay.
So,
What's good, Randall?
Peace, peace.
Donna
What's
was
good?
trying to
Y'all can
get
hear
in.
me?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah,
you fine. But Donna was trying to get in. What happened
I
with that?
don't know. I
Okay.
mean, I see it, but
Oh, there she goes.
yeah.
I am here and I
Oh,
can't stay long. I'm having problems with my video. So,
See your background. We don't see you. We see the
yeah,
ghost. Donna.
yeah, because
Ghost of Donna.
something's going on. I
You
have
see
to
the
update
lovely living room.
the lovely living room. But when Kim was speaking about in terms of ordinances, especially when developments and changes to our city are going on, we have to have teachings, and we really have to buckle down and pass an ordinance to have a community boards, because I know New York and Atlanta, when particularly when new developments is coming into a community, they have to go before these community boards, and so to make sure that the community piece is there. But when cities don't have that, and if you have communities like our urban communities where people are working 2 and 3 jobs, the babysitter, this and that, and before they know it, they'll come home and then one day there's a high-rise building in their neighborhood, and they're like, "What happened? Why didn't we know about it?" And it's because we don't have a requirement um, that the that we that the developers come into a community, they have the funds in their accounts. This is, part of their budget, that they should have to go to each ward and speak to the wards and tell them the who, what, why, and where. And even though it's not written, we can still demand it. And we have to demand it, because when we're not a part of the decision making, we are really am affected by it, and more so than not negatively affected by it. And like Ed said, we'll all be living down um at Penn Station. You starting to see these, Asbury Park is a good city to look at, how it's becoming like the um across the railroad city. One side looks like this and the other side look like that. And we have to demand, we have to stop. So I hope they can get into that public hearing and put a hold on it, and whatever changes that they're requesting. And as a council person, um, perhaps somebody can call like several of council members and ask them to print out 25 copies and let people come pick them up, or get them, or have them walk them to the neighborhood, so people can get in their little circles and talk about it, highlight some things, and strategically plan. Well, we're going to ask this question, this question, and this question, and if they have to put it on hold, they can put an ordinance on hold and come back to the next meeting. It's done quite often, and if the residents are not happy, it should be put on hold.
And Donna, let me ask you a question as an experienced council member. So now, when there's an ordinance of this importance, do do council people ask their staff to go read it, or do they have resources to go and bring in experts themselves? Like Kim was saying, they had got funding for an expert to come in and actually explain that document to them.
So if we're talking about a development, it doesn't have to come out of the council's out of the council's budget. It comes out of that developer's budget,
Okay.
and they yes, they can have their staff read it. They can ask that developer to come to the community. One of the things that I would do with every development that would come in, I would ask that they come back and they have a meeting, that they will go to, if it's in a particular ward. If you come up to Orange, over on Park Street, down at the bottom where McDonald's is, you'll see that there's a Wawa there now. That
Yeah.
developer Paramount, Richard Dunn, he came out and he did several community meetings, and he came to the church that's closest to that area. He went to City Hall because that's a central location. But the ask you have to ask, and if you're not asking, and trust me, if you're dealing with a developer who's built in New York, that is what they're used to doing because they have to do it in New York. They have to go before the community, explain the development, answer questions, and and yield to what the community is asking, to do in terms of changes and things of that nature. We don't have it, the community boards here in New Jersey, but it's nothing. You don't have to have it in place, but I think it's something that we really should have in place because it's that step that needs to be had. And on Central Avenue, there was another, was that Richard Dunn too, Paramount, that they where Scott's Lounge used to be at. Now it's a dollar store. And we did a community meeting over at Walter G. And one of the women in the community is like, how do you know we wanted a dollar store? You didn't ask us what we wanted. You're coming to tell us that you're putting a dollar store. What if we wanted a community center? What if we wanted, and it was and actually I'll send, if I find it, I'll send it to you, Ed, so you can post a community meeting. You can see
Mm.
um how that particular community meeting turned out. But in New Jersey, again, we're not used to doing it because it's not something that we require. But I know New York developers usually say we didn't do it because nobody asked us to do it.
That's the thing. And now I should have asked Kim that questions. I.e., has there been any community meetings? Right? Have they
She said
done?
there were.
They
She
were.
said they have a 5 ward task force that met in all five
There you go.
communities.
Okay.
Yeah, and I hope they bring that information on Wednesday, right? That whatever.
There's another question. So there's another factor there. It's the influence of these big developers. These influencers, that puts what did they give for those 5 votes that they expect to get? See, that's the question.
Right. That's it. That is the question. As I said, I wrote, but now you have asked the right question.
Now,
But I
and that would be
yeah.
shocking if we find out that our people have actually been paid off uh,
Mm,
to vote in the way that they're voting, right? Now that would shock the hell out of me, right? Because I would believe that these particular people would be above reproach on that level. These are all people whom we know,
That's
right?
right.
So in my mind, I would tend not to lean in that direction. But just from where we live at, we understand that that's a real question you ask. You know,
hmm
because we know that's not beneath developers to
mm,
go and pay people off because we got people who are in prison for doing those exact things. But
okay.
but we would like to believe that.
Menendez got to go. I'm sorry. Let me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who's that?
Gold bullion in your suit
Menendez.
pocket.
Who?
The
Oh,
Menendez.
gold.
Menendez.
Representative. Yeah.
Put it
Okay.
in the wrong
Coming around
suit
with
jacket.
gold and whatnot.
Well, listen, y'all.
Uh,
Y'all know this is not our time.
that's right.
That's
Now that
right.
we all up
It
in this
belongs to
space,
Rhino, but I
you know,
just
Donna
wanted to,
coming. She coming like pow.
yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry. And I wanted to be there while I was Kim, but I have to sign off because I have to catch a 9:18 train. But what's the word I wanted to leave Rhino with tonight? Rhino, I'm glad to see you. I know you had a family emergency last, but what is the word? What was the word? Entanglements. That's what I wanted to leave you with, that word, Rhino. Okay, and we'll talk about that later, sir. All right, guys, have a
All
blessed
right.
evening, and talk to you later. Bye bye.
That's interesting, Rhino, that she would leave with that because, I mean, is that I mean, I'm sure that's hot, in terms of entertainment, news, what's going on, with that. But I was looking at something with DJ Envy, man. It said that, I saw something where they said that he had a Ponzi scheme going. Did you hear about that?
From what I saw, yeah, he got caught up in one of those real estate scams. I don't know all the details yet. I got to do some more research on it, but I did come across that he got caught up somehow in one of those real estate scams. You know, DJ Envy's been dealing in real estate for some time now. He's been doing that for some years now.
Right.
That's like his other side thing that he does. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, something came up where they said that he got caught up in one of those scams. So, you know, I'm hoping he's not too deeply connected to it. You know, maybe he just got caught up in something, you know, in the middle. I'm hoping he's not like an engineer of any of those things, but
yeah,
you know, but yeah, I did see he got caught up though.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. And then, and I know it's Donna. She's probably talking about, you know, Jada and the whole thing, because it's been out in the media that Jada's, you know, she mentioned that her and Will have been separated for some time now, which I already kind of knew. I think a lot of us kind of knew that already.
I didn't know that.
Nah, yeah, they were separated for a while. I mean, for a while they were separated. Yeah, so even during the whole Chris Rock slap and all of that, you know, they weren't together like that at that time.
It wasn't public knowledge.
Yeah. So, but you know, like I said, you know, I usually report on the music. I don't report on the gossip and the personal stuff.
That's right.
But that's what's been going on. Though. They talking about, you know, about Jada. Jada's, you know, she just recently mentioned on some. I'm not sure who the interview was with. I don't know if that was Gail or somebody, but she did a recent interview where she mentioned that they've been separated for some time.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been a while since I've been here. So I mean, let me just draw back real quick. The Congressional Black Caucus in D.C. with the congressman. That went really well. It was a beautiful thing. I know he was on here and he was talking about the new party, New Orleans and New Jersey, and how they're trying to create this new thing, and they call it the new party. But yeah, that went really well.
Is that a political party? The new party?
I don't know if it's a political party or if it's just something that they're doing. Like when they do the Congressional Black Caucus, it's like they're always together doing this thing. You know, where it's, you know, it's New Orleans and New Jersey. So, you know, I don't know if what it is, if they're doing some kind of like, if it's a party thing, you know, when they're doing the party event, or if it's a political thing. I don't know if it's a political thing, but we'll see. Okay. I know Congressman's got more details on that, but that's something that they were definitely trying to spearhead while we were there that night, man. We had a great time. Me and my wife went. And yeah, it was nice. We had a good time. Since then, also after that, I think it was the weekend after that, I did the Newark Arts Museum. The Newark Arts Museum had a thing called Strings and Stanzas, where they had New Jersey Symphony. They had students from the Newark Arts School of Arts performing there with the whole orchestra was there, as well as we had Rod Digger there doing a couple of her hits and rocking with the symphony, rocking with D. Cross, who's a human beatboxer, but he was also one of the instructors at NJ-PAC when they had the hip hop program that my daughter was in, that Shani was in. He was one of the beatboxers. Him, Purple Haze was there also in the audience checking it out. But that was huge. That was great for, you know, we had Rod Digger there. We had Madison Starr, who's Misa Hilton's daughter. You know, Misa Hilton was P. Diddy's ex. So, you know, her daughter was there. C.J. Wallace, Biggie's Notorious B.I.G.'s son was in the house. He was there to support Madison Starr. So it was good to see him there in the house. But yeah, man, we had a good time, man. A lot of the artists and musicians were there. Terrence McKnight, who had an incredible performance, man, where he had the orchestra doing the music, and he did his poetry over it. It was real heartfelt. A lot of emotion to what he brought to the stage. It was hosted by the homegirl Marcy. It was a great event. It was at Newark Museum of Arts, Newark Arts Museum. That was just the week before last, because last weekend We did a Day of Unity, in observance of Amamu Amiri Baraka, and as well as the recognition of the National Black Political Convention that took place in Gary, Indiana in '72. Right. So, and that was real good. My son, the General, came out. Of course, our own Bashir Akinyele, Keisha Yuri, they were in the house. Principal Kafele was in the house. It was always good to see him. We had a lot of good people in the house. We had the award event that, we saluted people like Larry Ham, who's always represented in the hood for us, for the people. We also awarded Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who was in the house also. So it was good to see Dr. Leonard Jeffries there. So we had a real good event, man. We had 3 different panels that took place throughout the day. We had the award ceremony and the dinner in the evening. So that was real nice, man. And I enjoyed it myself.
Music by DJ Rhino. That's right.
Yeah. It was real nice. I enjoyed that.
And from what I understood, those elders were telling me they enjoy. I saw Dr. J dancing to what was that James Brown song you was playing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was the big payback.
Big payback. That's right.
I mean, isn't he almost 90 years old?
86.
86.
And I was telling him when I
had the song going, he was dancing. They were coming to me saying we like the music.
I was telling him when I was speaking with him, I was telling him how we have a picture. I have a picture of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, my aunt Dr. Olivia J. Hooker, who was one of the last survivors of the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, and she was.
What's your aunt? I just came back from Tulsa.
Yeah, that's my aunt, Dr. Olivia J. Hooker. That's my auntie. Yeah, and she was also the first African American woman in the Coast Guard. So big child psychologist and all of that. She evaluated me when I was a kid, and the school system was trying to put me in special ed. She evaluated me and kept me out, of that situation. So my auntie, man, she's a heavy figure. But I have a picture of Dr. Jeffries, my auntie, and my daughter Nishani sitting in my auntie's house. So that was nice, man. But it was good to see him, man. He's still vibrant, still got us, and him and his wife. It was a beautiful night. It was beautiful the whole day, really. We went from 8 a.m. to what was it, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Something like that. Yeah.
And of course, remember we had Minister Farrakhan.
Minister Farrakhan and the mayor. The mayor really. Anytime the mayor gets going, and you could tell, he originally started where he was give his thanks and or whatever. But once the mayor starts going on his rants, man, those rants are so special, so important, man, because everything he says, man, just really hits home, and it's very inspiring, man. Yeah, so big ups to Mayor Ross Baraka. Yeah, definitely. So that was last weekend. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at 538 Broad Street for Hip Hop Against Hunger. We're doing an event there for Hip Hop Against Hunger, 538 Broad Street from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm probably going to be there. I'm going to be there probably around 3 o'clock. I'm supposed to go on. I'll be there at 2 o'clock, but I'm going to be throughout the event. It's going to be me and a few other DJs there. Let me see if I can pull up some of the info here. It's the 9th annual Hip Hop Against Hunger benefit show. Live music and art, dance, vendors, good vibes. It's going to be myself, DJ Rhino, Selena's DJ Lady C. Then I have graffiti by Jaser and Soze Tats. Then I have performances by Jay Wonder, he's one of the artists from out here in Jersey, man. He's a rapper, and I really love this young brother, man. He's got a lot of strong material. His videos are good. His voice, his delivery. Check out Jay Wonder. He's going to be there. Janessa Miranda's going to be there. Lau Omalayo is going to be there. My man Knowledge. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of things going on, man. That's tomorrow from 1 to 5. So definitely come through. It's Hip Hop Against Hunger.
Put it on my page. Yeah.
Where's it going to be?
It's going to be at a spot called Newark Local Beer. It's 538 Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey. 538 Broad Street, Newark Local Beer, Hip Hop Against Hunger, tomorrow from 1 to 5.
That's over there by the park somewhere, I think.
Yeah. But that's it, man. And then I'll be returning to my Twitch thing next Saturday. I haven't done that. Let me tell you, it's a good thing, but I've been busy. I've been busy, man, like all summer, man. Since mid July, mid June, really, mid June. I've been busy, man. It's just been going.
Yes, it's good to be DJ Run, man.
Yeah, and with it being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, man, that's really what's been keeping me busy, man.
Right.
So I got to salute hip hop, man. I got to salute the culture of hip hop. Always, anytime I'm on here, I'm always talking about how the culture saved me.
Right.
It really saved my life, man. It opened my mind and my heart and my spirit and got me enthused and passionate about some real things in life. And so 50 years later, as far as hip hop's existence, man, I gotta shout it out, man. It's been keeping me busy and keeping my pockets full, all of this year. So gotta shout out the culture of hip hop and everybody that's contributed, man.
And then we see, and you need to lift this. You need to tell that story more often too, because that's a great story. And then people don't think of hip hop as a lifesaver for us, man.
And it really was, man. At a time where my mother was concerned about my level of reading and how much I was reading or not. KRS and Chuck D really opened me up to the books, man. They opened me up to get into Malcolm, to get into the Panthers, get into Farrakhan, and everything in between. You know what I'm saying? And I was me and my man Cool Mellow Max 165. He was a graph writer, but he was also an MC, and he was we were doing music and stuff together. But that was my partner when it came down to just going to the bookstores, man. We were in the bookstores all the time. We go up to Mart 125, 125th Street. We go everywhere, man, where they had black books. The brothers on the street, downtown, and we were just bookworms, man. We would just fill our minds up with all of that knowledge, man. And when you're first realizing the reasons for why things are the way they are in your life, and then you really start to reflect on all of those things, and then it all comes back down to you, and you start looking at yourself like, wow, this is the reason why I'm this way. This is where you start to get that knowledge yourself, and you really start reflecting. You know what I mean? And so that's what it was, man. And we were passionate, man. I was super militant in my early 20s. Once I got that knowledge, man, and that's what it was about, man. So and I credit it all to hip hop, man, and to our leaders who came before us, because it was them that hip hop got their knowledge from. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. So big ups hip hop. And speaking of hip hop, I got to shout out. I have to say this. I have to shout out Marley Marl. They had the hip hop BET Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards, just a couple of days ago, and they awarded they awarded Marley Marl with an award. And Marley Marl, and Swizz Beatz had to jump in real quick and remind his that Marley Marl was the one who really started sampling in hip hop. This whole sampling thing that everybody does, it was a big, huge controversy in late 80s, early 90s. Like Marley Marl was the first one to really bring sampling to the forefront in hip hop, and we got to salute that dude. And then in talking about sampling, this right here, I gotta say, rest in peace.
Rest
in peace, Rudolph Isley. Rudolph Isley was one of the original Isley brothers. When the Isley brothers first formed, it was Vernon Isley, it was O'Kelly Isley, Ronald Isley, Rudolph Isley, and it started off with those brothers, and they were doing gospel music. Brother Vernon, he passed, and it was just the three of them. The three of them went on to do great things. They went on to start their career as a group. They did the song "Shout," which became a big hit, and shout. Yeah, and so many people covered that song. And I remember when I was growing up, I knew nothing about the Isley brothers having anything to do with that song. But later down the line, I find that out, and I'm like, wow. And I did the research, and they really had an extensive songwriting career, early in the days. And they used to even roll with Jimi Hendrix, or Jimi Hendrix used to roll with them. Which is how Ernie Isley got his chops on his guitar. You know what I'm saying? But the Isley brothers, the original Isley brothers was Ronald, Kelly, Ronald O. Kelly, and Rudolph. And we just lost Rudolph. What was it, yesterday? That we lost Rudolph Isley.
He was in his 80s. I didn't realize he was that old. Yeah, he's in his 80s.
And he's one of the eldest, one of the eldest brothers. And every time I looked, I remember, you know, I never knew if he was the oldest, but anytime I looked at any of those album covers by the Ozzy Brothers, I always saw Rudolph and always looked at him. It was like, yeah, that must be Big Bruh right there. He always had that look, you know what I mean? You know, the Big Brothers back in the days always had the hard face, the hard look, like Jackie and Tito and the Jacksons. They always had the hard face, you know. So I used to look at Rudolph like he must be Big Bruh in the Ozzy Brothers. But we just lost that brother recently, and this record label T-Neck. This was the Ozzy Brothers label. They started that label after they put out a bunch of records. They only had maybe 1 or 2 hits. They realized, look, let's start our own label and handle our own business. You know what I'm saying? And so they founded T-Neck Records. The group, the band, the family, they started in Cincinnati, Ohio. Shortly after one of the eldest brothers, Vernon, passed, they moved to, some places say they moved to New York, but really what they did, they moved to New Jersey. They moved to New Jersey, and that's when they started the label.
That's where T-Neck come from. That's right.
That's right. So yeah, big ups to rest in peace to Rudolph Isley, one of the original founders and members of the Isley Brothers, who we sample all the time in hip hop. But that's it for me, y'all. Remember, tomorrow, Hip Hop for Hunger, 1 p.m., 538 Broad Street, Newark Local Beer. That's where it's going to be at. I'll be there around 2, 3 o'clock and throughout the rest of the evening.
Let me ask you one question before we close out, Rhino. This is a trivia question.
Yes, sir.
Who did Marley Marl sign out of Newark? What artist was he responsible for getting signed?
Out of Newark, he helped sign Lords of the Underground.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
He helped sign Lords of the Underground. And I mean, he even helped sign Roxanne Shante, even though she's Queens / Newark. You know what I'm saying? She starts in Queens, but we like to claim her too in the bricks. But he helped her also. He set off her whole career. So yeah. Marley doesn't get the shine that he really, really deserves, because he really started a whole lot. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that we still do in hip hop today, as far as production and music and all of that. Yeah. He started a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, listen, man. I want to thank you, Randall, for what you did. It was outstanding. Your contribution, your name was all over the place. You know what I mean? And thank you, man, for last Saturday. It was awesome, man. Everybody, everybody at the school, really enjoyed the presentation, and it was just an awesome day. It was a long day, but it was an awesome day, right?
It was inspiring.
And it concluded with them elders, and we got to thank Zaid, for staying on his post. He was determined to get that done. And
Julius Williams was the other awardee, by the way.
Huh?
Julius Williams was the other awardee.
Yes, Julius Williams.
You mentioned the Demon.
Right.
Julius Williams was the other one. Yeah.
Yep.
And we still have to connect with Mama Mina Baraka, and we still have to connect with Queen Mother Cleopatra Tucker.
Yeah. So that was Zaid's vision, and we definitely want to thank Zaid. It was awesome, and I thank God I got the video of all of that. So for anybody who want to see all of those videos, all of them are up on our YouTube page for MBPC Network on YouTube. Every one of the videos are there, even the mayor and Minister Farrakhan. So you can go there. When you go there, all we ask is that you subscribe, so that whenever we go live, you'll get a bell that will let you know when we go live on YouTube, and you can watch all of those videos at your leisure and get a chance to learn what went on that day. So, Zaid, let's go on and thank all of our guests that were on tonight. First, we want to thank, of course, our brother who came on, and he was dropping signs all throughout the show.
Yes. We were supposed to have one of my daughters out there that I'm actually working with out here in Louisiana. She's a sharp and organized. We got to get it back on. And that's Josie Alexander, because we got some stuff going on with the police. We got some stuff going on with the violence thing. And this young organizer is really trying to break some real ground, pulling people together across the state. I apologize that we couldn't get her on because of the time issues. And I want to, who do we have? Kim killed it. Yeah, Kim killed it. And she hasn't been on in a minute, but when she comes on, it's right on time.
Yeah,
right?
appreciate it. Yeah.
Kim Gannon, right? Newark's environmental justice history is yet to be written and appreciated, but we've got a powerful environmental justice history. In fact, we've got Ironbound Community Corporation over 50 years in. Southwater Alliance that she runs is a good almost 20 to 30 years in. And the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance just moved back into Newark, right? And it's run by a young sister, Melissa Miles, who came out of ICC. So Newark has got a hell of a environmental justice profile. And this question, and I know we're up against the clock, is what the young folks call intersectional, right? Housing justice, environmental justice, economic justice, all of that run together, right? On this whole particular thing around this redo this ordinance to let these big developers come in and do what the hell they want to do. We got to put a stop to that mess, for real.
So we definitely thank her for her contribution, and we definitely do we thank our brother.
Oh, you had Conrad on. Yeah, Conrad on. I had to step when you did, but you had Conrad on.
Yeah, we want to thank Conrad for coming through. We appreciate that, and of course, Dr. Kilfani. Right?
Kilfani Killer. Got so much.
So we appreciate all of them for coming on and being a part of the show tonight. Just tremendous information and sharing. So appreciate it, all the guests tonight, and of course, I appreciate you two brothers for coming through and continuing to beat the drum tonight. And so until next week, we want to say to all the folks, y'all know where we're gonna be next Friday, 6 to 9. As my brother Zaid would say, we'll catch y'all in the whirlwind.
You don't stop.
Later.
You can't say it. Good evening, everybody. It is an honor to be here at my last, and perhaps the last, White House Correspondents' Day. You all look great. The end of the Republic has never looked better. I do apologize. I know I was a little late tonight. I was running on CPT. Which stands for jokes that white people should not make. It's a tip for you, Jeff. Anyway, here we are. My 8th and final appearance at this unique event. And I am excited. If this material works well, I'm going to use it at Goldman Sachs next year. Earn me some serious Tubmans. That's right. That's right. My brilliant and beautiful wife, Michelle, is here tonight. She looks so happy to be here. That's called practice. It's like learning to do 3-minute planks. She makes it look easy now, but next year at this time, someone else will be standing here in this very spot, and it's anyone's guess who she will be. But standing here, I can't help but be reflective, a little sentimental. 8 years ago, I said it was time to change the tone of our politics. In hindsight, I clearly should have been more specific. Eight years ago, I was a young man, full of idealism and vigor. And look at me now. I am gray, grizzled, just counting down the days till my death panel. Hillary once questioned whether I'd be ready for a 3 a.m. phone call. Now I'm awake anyway because I got to go to the bathroom. I'm up. In fact, somebody recently said to me, Mr. President, you are so yesterday. Justin Trudeau has completely replaced you. He's so handsome. He's so charming. He's the future. And I said, Justin, just give it a rest. I resented that. Meanwhile, Michelle has not aged a day. The only way you can date her in photos is by looking at me. Take a look. Here we are in 2008. Here we are a few years later. And this one is from 2 weeks ago. So time passes. In just 6 short months, I will be officially a lame duck, which means Congress now will flat out reject my authority, and Republican leaders won't take my phone calls. And this is going to take some getting used to. It's really going to, it's a curveball. I don't know what to do with it. Of course, in fact, 4 months now, congressional Republicans have been saying there are things I cannot do in my final year. Unfortunately, this dinner was not one of them. But on everything else, it's another story. And you know who you are, Republicans. In fact, I think we've got Republican Senators Tim Scott and Cory Gardner. They're in the House, which reminds me, security, bar the doors. Judge Merrick Garland, come on out. We're going to do this right here, right now. It's like the Red Wedding. But it's not just Congress. Even some foreign leaders, they've been looking ahead, anticipating my departure. Last week, Prince George showed up to our meeting in his bathrobe. That was a slap in the face. A clear breach of protocol. Although while in England, I did have lunch with Her Majesty the Queen, took in a performance of Shakespeare, hit the links with David Cameron, just in case anybody is still debating whether I'm black enough. I think that settles the debate. I won't lie. Look, this is a tough transition. It's hard. Key staff are now starting to leave the White House. Even reporters have left me. Savannah Guthrie, she's left the White House press corps to host the Today Show. Nora O'Donnell left the briefing room to host CBS This Morning. Jake Tapper left journalism to join CNN. But the prospect of leaving the White House is a mixed bag. You might have heard that someone jumped the White House fence last week, but I have to give Secret Service credit. They found Michelle, brought her back. She's safe. She's safe back at home now. It's only 9 more months, baby. Settle down. And yet somehow, despite all this, despite the churn, in my final year, my approval ratings keep going up. The last time I was this high, I was trying to decide on my major. And here's the thing, I haven't really done anything differently. So it's odd. Even my aides can't explain the rising poll numbers. What has changed? Nobody can figure it out. Puzzling. Anyway, in this last year, I do have more appreciation for those who've been with me on this amazing ride. Like one of our finest public servants, Joe Biden. God bless him. Love that guy. I love Joe Biden. I really do. And I want to thank him for his friendship, for his counsel, for always giving it to me straight, for not shooting anybody in the face. Thank you, Joe. Also, I would be remiss. Let's give it up for our host, Larry Wilmore. Also known as one of the 2 black guys who's not Jon Stewart. You're the South African guy, right? I love Larry. And his parents are here, who are from Evanston, which is a great town. I also would like to acknowledge some of the award-winning reporters that we have with us here tonight. Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo, Leah Schreiber. Thank you all for everything that you've done. I'm just joking. As you know, Spotlight is a film, a movie about investigative journalists with the resources and the autonomy to chase down the truth and hold the powerful accountable. Best fantasy film since Star Wars. Look, that was maybe a cheap shot. I understand the news business is tough these days. It keeps changing all the time. Every year at this dinner, somebody makes a joke about BuzzFeed, for example, changing the media landscape. And every year the Washington Post laughs a little bit less hard. It's kind of a silence there, especially at the Washington Post table. GOP Chairman Reince Priebus is here as well. Glad to see that you feel that you've earned a night off. Congratulations on all your success. The Republican Party, the nomination process, it's all going great. Keep it up. Kendall Jenner is also here, and we had a chance to meet her backstage. She seems like a very nice young woman. I'm not exactly sure what she does, but I am told that my Twitter mentions are about to go through the roof. Helen Mirren is here tonight. I don't even have a joke here. I just think Helen Mirren is awesome. She's awesome. Sitting at the same table, I see Mike Bloomberg. Mike, a combative, controversial New York billionaire, is leading the GOP primary, and it is not you. That has to sting a little bit. Although it's not an entirely fair comparison between you and the Donald. After all, Mike was a big city mayor. He knows policy in depth, and he's actually worth the amount of money that he says he is. What an election season. For example, we've got the bright new face of the Democratic Party here tonight, Mr. Bernie Sanders. There he is. There he is. Bernie, you look like $1 million. Or to put it in terms you'll understand, you look like 37,000 donations of $27 each. A lot of folks have been surprised by the Bernie phenomenon, especially his appeal to young people, but not me. I get it. Just recently, a young person came up to me and said she was sick of politicians standing in the way of her dreams. As if we were actually going to let Malia go to Burning Man this year. Was not going to happen. Bernie might have let her go, not us. I am hurt, though, Bernie, that you've been distancing yourself a little from me. I mean, that's just not something that you do to your comrade. Bernie's slogan has helped his campaign catch fire among young people. Feel the burn. Feel the burn. It's a good slogan. Hillary's slogan has not had the same effect. Let's see this. Look, I've said how much I admire Hillary's toughness, her smarts, her policy chops, her experience. You've got to admit it, though. Hillary trying to appeal to young voters is a little bit like your relative who just signed up for Facebook. Yeah. Dear America, did you get my poke? Is it appearing on your wall? I'm not sure I'm using this right. Love, Aunt Hillary. It's not entirely persuasive. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, things are a little more, how shall we say this? A little more loose. Just look at the confusion over the invitations to tonight's dinner. Guests were asked to check whether they wanted steak or fish, but instead, a whole bunch of you wrote in Paul Ryan. That's not an option, people. Steak or fish. You may not like steak or fish, but that's your choice. Meanwhile, some candidates aren't polling high enough to qualify for their own joke tonight. The rules were well established ahead of time. And then there's Ted Cruz. Ted had a tough week. He went to Indiana, Hoosier country, stood on a basketball court, and called the hoop a basketball ring. What else is in his lexicon? Baseball sticks, football hats. But sure, I'm the foreign one. Well, let me conclude tonight on a more serious note. I want to thank the Washington Press Corps. I want to thank Carol for all that you do. You know, the free press is central to our democracy, and nah, I'm just kidding. You know I've got to talk about Trump. Come on. We weren't just going to stop there. Come on. Although I am a little hurt that he's not here tonight. We had so much fun the last time. And it is surprising. You've got a room full of reporters, celebrities, cameras, and he says no. Is this dinner too tacky for the Donald? What could he possibly be doing instead? Is he at home eating a Trump steak? Tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel? What's he doing? The Republican establishment is incredulous that he's their most likely nominee. Incredulous, shocking. They say Donald lacks the foreign policy experience to be president. But in fairness, he has spent years meeting with leaders from around the world. Miss Sweden, Miss Argentina, Miss Azerbaijan. And there's one area where Donald's experience could be invaluable, and that's closing Guantanamo. Because Trump knows a thing or two about running waterfront properties into the ground. All right, that's probably enough. I mean, I've got more material. No. I don't want to spend too much time on the Donald. Following your lead, I want to show some restraint. Because I think we can all agree that from the start, he's gotten the appropriate amount of coverage, befitting the seriousness of his candidacy. I hope you all are proud of yourselves. The guy wanted to give his hotel business a boost, and now we're praying that Cleveland makes it through July. As for me and Michelle, we've decided to stay in DC for a couple more years. Thank you. This way, our youngest daughter can finish up high school. Michelle can stay closer to her plot of carrots. She's already making plans to see them every day. Take a look. But our decision has actually presented a bit of a dilemma because traditionally presidents don't stick around after they're done. And it's something that I've been brooding about a little bit. Take a look.
The Obamas are staying in D.C. for 2 years after the president leaves office.
He's about to go from commander-in-chief to couch commander.
You, Chuck Todd. What am I going to do in D.C. for 2 years?
You've got a real dilemma, Mr. President.
I can't go every day, can I?
I wish you liked better, these or these.
Joe, they're the same.
They capture different moods.
Joe, I need some focus here.
Comes in under an aviator time, thinks everything.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said, Mr. President, that you had to be practical. And look, you can drive again. You're going to need a license. You love sports. Why don't you volunteer to work for one of the teams around here?
Is this the Washington Wizards? I understand you're looking for some coaching help. Let's just say I coached my daughter's team a few times. Hello. Hello.
44.
Finally. So I'm going to be in DC for a while, and I thought I'd take up driving again.
What's the name?
Barack Hussein Obama.
Thanks. Well, since you don't have a driver's license, you're going to need a birth certificate.
Really?
Really.
It's real.
Is it?
It's real.
But is it?
Oh, Michelle left her phone. Huh. She's got Snapchat. Obamacare is great, and it's really working. Sign up now.
Breaking news.
Michelle Obama in hot water after posting this video earlier today.
Obamacare is great, and it's really working. Sign up now.
No?
No.
Did we get a lot of views at least?
Honey, enough. Why don't you just talk to somebody who's been through this? I gotta go to Soul Cycle.
She's right. I know who I need to talk to. Hey, it's Barack. Listen, can we get together? Now that is a great move. Yeah, it just So, you got any advice for me?
So now you want my advice? First, stop sending me all these LinkedIn requests. And second, here's the beauty of this whole thing. You've got all the time in the world to figure this out. You can just be you for a while. If you know how to do that again.
So I can just be me.
And I can wear my mom jeans in peace. I hate these tight jeans.
That's good. Yesterday, I had a beer at 11:30 in the morning. And you know, McDonald's now serves breakfast all day long.
You know, Michelle's going to be at spin class, so she'll never know.
All right, let it go. You know, it won't be long. You'll be able to walk right out of the Oval Office singing zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. And you got plenty of time to work on your tan. And you know what? I finally got the grand bargain on a sweet Chevy Tahoe. Look here. Look here. Yeah.
Breaking news, former President Barack Obama on his 347th round of golf for the year, and it's totally great. And Gloria, not a problem for anybody.
I
I can't think of a reason to care, Wolf. And believe me, I've tried.
There you go. I am still waiting for all of you to respond to my invitation to connect to LinkedIn. But I know you have jobs to do, which is what really brings us here tonight. I know that there are times that we've had differences, and that's inherent in our institutional roles. It's true of every president and his press corps. But we've always shared the same goal, to root our public discourse in the truth, to open the doors of this democracy, to do whatever we can to make our country and our world more free and more just. And I've always appreciated the role that you have all played as equal partners in reaching these goals. Our free press is why we once again recognize the real journalists who uncover the horrifying scandal and brought some measure of justice for thousands of victims throughout the world. They are here with us tonight. Sasha Pfeiffer, Mike Resendez, Walter Robinson, Matt Carroll, and Bed Brandley Jr. Please give them a big round of applause. Our free press is why, once again, we honor Jason Rezaian. As Carol noted, last time this year we spoke of Jason's courage as he endured the isolation of an Iranian prison. This year we see that courage in the flesh, and it's a living testament to the very idea of a free press, and a reminder of the rising level of danger and political intimidation and physical threats faced by reporters overseas. And I can make this commitment that as long as I hold this office, my administration will continue to fight for the release of American journalists held against their will, and we will not stop until they see the same freedom as Jason had. At home and abroad, journalists, like all of you, engage in the dogged pursuit of informing citizens and holding leaders accountable and making our government of the people possible. And it's an enormous responsibility. And I realize it's an enormous challenge at a time when the economics of the business sometimes incentivize speed over depth, and when controversy and conflict are what most immediately attract readers and viewers. The good news is there's so many of you that are pushing against those trends. And as a citizen of this great democracy, I am grateful for that. For this is also a time around the world when some of the fundamental ideals of liberal democracies are under attack, and when notions of objectivity and of a free press and of facts and of evidence are trying to be undermined, or in some cases ignored entirely. And in such a climate, it's not enough just to give people a megaphone. And that's why your power and your responsibility to dig and to question and to counter distortions and untruths is more important than ever. Taking a stand on behalf of what is true does not require you shedding your objectivity. In fact, it is the essence of good journalism. It affirms the idea that the only way we can build consensus, the only way that we can move forward as a country, the only way we can help the world mend itself is by agreeing on a baseline of facts when it comes to the challenges that confront us all. So this night is a testament to all of you who've devoted your lives to that idea, who push to shine a light on the truth every single day. So I want to close my final White House Correspondents' Dinner by just saying thank you. I'm very proud of what you've done. It has been an honor and a privilege to work side by side with you to strengthen our democracy. And with that, I just have two more words to say. Obama out.
Welcome to this evening's debate at Belmont University here in Nashville. I am Janet Brown, Executive Director of the Commission on Presidential Debates. Over the next few minutes, you will hear some ground rules for the evening and many expressions of gratitude to the people and organizations who got us here tonight. I'd like to start with three of them who are genuine champions of debate and true friends to the CPD. The first is Dr. Robert Fisher, the president of Belmont University. We held a 2008 debate here. Belmont served as a backup site in 2016, and Bob has managed to make this evening happen in spite of a lot of challenges that 2020 has brought to this campus and all the others across the country. They don't come any better than Bob and his colleagues. The second is Nashville's own Martin Slutsky. Marty has been the CPD's executive producer since 2000, and tonight is his 23rd debate. We could never do this without Marty, and he's a treasure. The third is our third co-chair, Dot Ridings, who is not here with us this evening. She is in Louisville, Kentucky at home, but here in spirit. She is an absolutely remarkable asset to the CPD board and staff. I'd like now to introduce the other co-chairs, our founding co-chair, Frank Fahrenkopf and Ken Wallach.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I join Janet in welcoming you all to Belmont and to Nashville. And we really owe a great debt of gratitude to the city and to this university. They've been so courteous and working so hard for us. And what a beautiful place this is. I hope you all got a chance to walk around and see this marvelous campus. We also have a crew. You see some of the people working around. There are cameramen, lighting people, people who produce this great background. We have over 60 of them. And we've had 4 debates in 4 different parts of this country. And thanks to United Airlines, which stepped up to the plate and is providing free of charge air service for our entire crew back and forth from one city to another. And so we really owe United Airlines. Now this one sounds funny, but we also owe Anheuser-Busch a great thank you, not only for their beer, but for what they've done for this commission for many, many years. It's a little less of a lift now. Normally, if we were here with normal times, there'd be 900 of you probably in this audience. But with coronavirus, it just wasn't necessary for us to, and possible for us to do that. But they have always provided a giant tent with the food to feed the 5,000 reporters that usually come from all over the world, our crew, the news people who are here. And Anheuser-Busch is with us again this year, and we thank them. A Pentagram, who's really responsible for some of the great work you see here. Kroll and Mooring, a firm in Washington, law firm. And tonight at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., the National Press Club is putting on for the 4th time a media filing center. If those of you walk around the campus, you'll see a giant tent out here. And that's where media from all over the world are sitting at tables, watching this on television, and filing their stories. And many, many, because of the coronavirus, were not able to come here for this. And so the National Press Club has set up a national filing center a media filing center for them. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about this debate. And so I want to spend a few minutes telling you what the rules are, because I think there's been some misconceptions and misstatement of what the rules are. We published in July the rules for this debate and the first debate. And they were the same, that the 90 minutes would be divided into 6 15-minute segments, with the moderator of each being able to name the subject matter, the general subject matter of each of those 6 segments. And the parties agreed that for the first 4 minutes of those 15-minute segments, each of them would, for 2 minutes, have the ability to speak without interruption of any sort. Then after they each spoke for 2 minutes, it was open for open debate. Now, unfortunately, if you happen to watch the first debate, those rules were not necessarily followed. And so the commission felt that we could not put in a new rule, and what we thought we would do would just put in a way to enforce what they had agreed to, the original rule, no interruption. So you're going to see tonight, I believe the first question will be directed to the president, and he will speak for 2 minutes. They have lights, you can't see them. They're looking into their cameras that tell them how much time is left and so forth. And at the end of 2 minutes, the president will stop speaking, and then Mr. Biden's microphone, which has been off for the 2 minutes that the president has been speaking, will come on. And this will happen at the start of each of the 6 sections. There's no other censure, there's no other buttons that are going to be pushed to stop them, because the rest of the time in each of the segments is for open debate. We want them to engage each other. We hope they do it civilly and discuss the issues so that the American people will learn something about where they are on the issues. Now, this is a very, very important debate for each of these candidates. The first debate, some weeks ago, had, according to Nielsen, 78 million people who watched it. Now, that doesn't count people who watched it on C-SPAN or people who had it on their computers or on their iPhones or their iPads. We think this debate tonight could reach 100 million people. You're very fortunate. You're sitting on seats that make you part of history. But those people at home are watching to try to learn something about these candidates, to make that important decision as to who they are going to support when they go to the polls if they haven't already done so. So it's not for you to participate by clapping, by standing up, by doing anything that would bring you into this. So please, please don't yell because you're interfering with what those people are seeing. Now, there also is a rule on masks. It's not only our rule, it's the rule of the city, it's the rule of this university, so that you must wear a mask to come in and you must keep your mask on. If you remove your mask while you're here, you will be approached and you'll be asked to put it back on. And if you don't put it back on, you'll be asked to leave. And if you won't leave, you'll be escorted to leave. So which will cause you some embarrassment and will take time away from the important things that are going on today. One other thing, at exactly 8 o'clock, you're going to hear a lot of noise. Because if you turn around and look behind you, those are the anchor booths of the major networks. And at exactly 8 o'clock, they're all going to go on at the same time. And you're going to hear a lot of voices that you'll recognize from different networks. So don't be surprised. That'll go on, and then they'll settle down as we go, and moderator comes out and also says some words. So with that, let me introduce my co-chairman, Ken Wallach.
Good evening. I join Frank, Janet, and fellow board members, including Yvonne Howe and John Griffin, who are with us tonight, in welcoming you to the 24th presidential debate sponsored and organized by the Commission on Presidential Debates, and the second hosted by Belmont University. As the newest co-chair of the commission, I'm proud to work alongside dedicated board members and a talented staff and crew who, against uphill odds, have built a nonpartisan institution since the commission was established in 1987. Our sole mission continues to be the holding of debates that serve and inform the American people. Now, please spare me a moment to explain the commission's efforts. Debates have evolved over the past 3 decades. More transparent criteria for qualification of debate participants, the trend toward a single moderator in order to focus greater attention on the candidates, and the allocation of time for different subject areas are but a few of the many changes that have been made. Many of the details for organizing the debates are left to agreement by the candidates themselves. The commission has selected the times and places for debates, the moderators, and the debate formats. Based on experience, these are issues that, if left to the negotiations between the candidates' campaigns, are nearly impossible to resolve in a timely manner. In fact, it were protracted and at times unworkable negotiations on these types of issues that led, in part, to the establishment of the commission itself. While there is always drama every 4 years, and this year is no exception. The process has worked. And post-debate research shows that the American people have considered these debates an important part of our political process. Debates have also created civic education opportunities for the schools and communities that have hosted them. Here at Belmont, the university has launched the Debate Programming Series that explores issues ranging from democracy to social media. The Commission has augmented these voter education efforts by establishing Debate Watch, which allows participants in all 50 states and Puerto Rico to exchange views on issues raised in debates and to listen respectfully to each other's opinions. Debate Watch 2020 will include more than 1 million participants. Overseas, the Commission, in partnership with the National Democratic Institute, has helped organize more than 400 candidate debates in 45 countries, most importantly, in new and emerging democracies. This initiative has led to the formation of Debates International, a support network of debate organizers from nearly 40 countries. I wanted to recognize the Commission's longest standing supporter. For the past 32 years, the Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler Foundation has given its trust to the nonpartisan work of the Commission, and we are deeply grateful for their generous contribution to this year's debates. Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce Dr. Bob Fisher, President of Belmont University. Thank you.